Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most underappreciated horror experiences the FNAF community has ever created. Despite delivering incredible scares, unforgettable atmospheres, and some of the strongest horror around, these games never received the recognition they truly deserved. Some of these are among the best horror games I've ever played, so let's get into it. The atmosphere in Five Nights at Freddy's games is what I personally feel actually makes the games scary. Not really the character designs, of course, not the jump scares, but the way the game's world is built is truly what I think defines a game as scary. There have been plenty of amazing FNAF games in the past with wonderful atmospheres. Think Banshee, FNAF Reanimated, Remnants of Tubbyland, and several more. But today, we're going to be talking about a game I don't hear mentioned all too often around the internet. I personally believe that this very FNAF game we'll be talking about today is hands down the creepiest, most unsettling, and most disgusting FNAF game I have ever played. So strap in and join me today as we dive into the world of Bloody Nights with Froggies. Before we jump into night one, we already have some stuff to talk about. That being the pre-night one cutscene, since this game decides to be a visual novel from time to time, which I do actually like. We play as this fat bastard. The game told us our name, but I can't for the fuck of me actually remember what it is. During this cutscene, we talk to a butler-looking dude named Lorenzi. For a bit of backstory, we want money because we have 2 kids and a wife. Literally couldn't be me, by the way. There's this whole weird opening cutscene that plays when you first open the game, talking about darkness, curiosity, and temptation. Like some weird force that's pulling us into this job. Get better, bro. Once Lorenzi learns about us having kids, we can see him get visibly shocked, and he almost seems like he tries to talk us out of doing this job, which is pretty weird. Since we're on the property of $1 million mansion, there is always worries of thieves and vandals. So he tries to make it seem like that's what we should be scared of, but little do we know that what's in store for us is actually about to be a lot worse. There's so much fucking talking during this section. Obviously, it is some exposition after all. Lorenzi asks us why we chose to take this job. And like, fucking money? You idiot. Of course it's money, bro. Why else do people get jobs? It's not because I want to be a part of your family or whatever you'll try to say our coworkers are. Miss me with that shit, bro. Anyways, Lorenzi says that he has to go, and we learn that our office isn't an office at all. And instead, we're dropped into some busted up shed that probably has demon spiders living inside of it. And that's where we have to stay for 6 hours, so this is about to be awful. Jumping inside of the shed, we learn about the threats we're about to go up against on some crayon and papyrus drawing. But of course, it wouldn't be fun if I just showed you these. Plus, I need some shit to talk about to pad for runtime since I've been told this game isn't that long. Loading into the shed, we get to learn about the tools at our disposal. Hooray! Everybody's favorite part of the videos. To start, we have our camera system. Of course, very simple. It doesn't do anything special and is just a camera system. There are 2 entrances to our shed, the window in front of us and the chimney to the shed because I guess sheds need a chimney for some reason. Each of these entrances has a door. As I'm sure you could have guessed, we can't keep them closed for the entire night, which just makes no sense and adds to my ever-growing list of reasons to pluck all of my fingernails and toenails off. The final tool we should talk about is the lantern on top of our ceiling. This is obviously our only source of light, and it's very limited on oil, so you shouldn't keep it on for very long. This lantern is going to play a huge role for most of the characters in this game, so I'll talk more about it as we learn about the threats this night introduces. We also have one other tool to talk about because I'm a filthy, disgusting liar. This anal tool. Whoops, autocorrect, my bad. This final tool we have to mention is our lighter that Lorenzi gave us. We obviously get the ability to turn the lantern off, so we'll need to use the lighter to be able to turn it back on. However, something really fun about this lighter is the fact that when you click it, it doesn't always ignite right away, and it's actually completely RNG how much you'll have to spam click in order for the lighter to turn on. And even after you manage to get the lighter lit up, the hitbox on this fucking lantern is the most nipple-ripping thing I've ever seen. For some reason, the hitbox for this lantern is significantly smaller than the actual lantern, and if it's not the hitbox that's fucking me up here, then that just means that after you get the lighter lit, there's a cooldown time for you to be able to light the lantern. Out of all things to make frustrating in your game, why the hell did you have to pick the most useful tool to do it to? Probably because God hates me. Anyways, now we can start talking about the 2 threats this night introduces. Not too many threats, which I appreciate. Not too few enemies that it feels boring, but not so many that it feels like a clusterfuck. The last sigh. The first threat I want to talk about is the Dark. I'm pretty sure that's not the actual name of this character, but the game also just doesn't tell you its name. The Dark is a teddy bear that sits under the table in a shed right in front of you. The Dark is very scared of the light, which is weird because I've always heard that opposites attract, so I guess that was just a lie. If your lantern is off, Dark will slowly creep his way out from under your desk to try to give you a little kiss. Thankfully, before he attacks you, he makes a very noticeable sound cue. What the fuck was that noise?
Hirsha. Yep, that was him. Check your office.
Okay, so this means you don't have to constantly be watching for him, which is very nice, especially on later nights when this game gets really ass. Once you see his eyes under the table, you've got about 5 seconds to fumble with your lighter and relight the lantern. Do that in time and the Dark will crawl back into the hellhole from which it came. The second threat introduced on this night is surprisingly the main antagonist of the entire game, which I always think is pretty cool when I see it. This character is obviously Froggy. His goal is to attack you via your window or your chimney. You can track him through the various cameras he goes through, and while most of the cameras don't matter, I do think it's pretty fun to see him do the cameras since it's not just a still image and he does have animations. So you can watch him twerk next to the fountain if you'd really like that. The camera that really matters for Froggy is camera 5, which as you can tell by looking at it is placed right outside of our shed, which is really useful, but let's just put ourselves into the shoes of our character for a second. Could you imagine how terrifying it would be checking the cameras and seeing some fucking monster trying to slowly creep their way into the building that you are in? Think about how actually mortifying that would be. I'd probably kill myself on the spot, on God. Anyways, once Froggy gets to your porch, he will pick one of 2 paths, the window or the chimney. It'll be pretty obvious when he's going for the chimney since he'll start crawling up the building, which is completely terrifying. And then if you don't see him doing that, then you know he's heading to your window. Now, this is where we have to defend ourselves from him, which I can promise you is not the way you're thinking and actually has nothing to do with the doors at all. So, Froggy is blind, like really badly. So if our lantern isn't on when he arrives, he won't be able to see us and will quickly leave. So right away, we already have a really good synergy between the only 2 characters in the night. Dark attacks when the light is off, and Froggy pounces if the light is on. Such perfect synergy, it's actually really nice. However, I'm sure a very specific question is crossing your mind right about now. What happens if both Froggy and Dark attack at the same time? Well, thankfully, this developer isn't Satan, and if Froggy and Dark attack at the same time, Dark will wait until Froggy leaves before continuing his attack. This just makes me smile from ear to ear. Overall, this night is a pretty good introduction to the hell we're about to go through. So I guess there's nothing else to do except move on to night 2. Psych fucking moron! We still have a post-night cutscene to talk about. We meet back up with Lorenzi, and he says that he thought he heard something moving around in the garden over the night and asks us if we saw anything. We start talking to ourselves about how suspicious everything going on is, and instead of voicing his concerns, we do what every retard in a horror situation does and lie and say we didn't see anything. Lorenzi seems to be able to tell we're lying and tries to soft launch us quitting again. But if we're anything, it's persistent. So we go home to catch some Z's and then return for our second night of work. Moving on to night 2, we have one new threat to talk about. And it's with this threat where it becomes obvious how hard this game is going to become. We just got a tiny little hint this time around. The new character introduced on this night is called Kitty, and as I'm sure you could have probably guessed, this character is in fact a kitty. I know. Oh, that cat is fucking disgusting.
Oh, did you see it?
Yeah, like what the fuck is that, right? Groundbreaking name scheme. Kitty works in the exact same way as Froggy, except with an opposite way of dealing with her. Oh yeah, I'm sure you can already guess what this is about to mean for us. Kitty will wander around the cameras until reaching camera 5. Oh, ew, what the fuck? Why does the cat look like that? She will then switch phases in this camera like Froggy to show her either going for the window or the chimney. The only difference Kitty has from Froggy is that by the time she gets to your window or chimney, your lantern needs to be on. Since cats don't see very well in the light, which is just not true. I know they see better in the dark, but it's not like they're blind during the day, but sure, we'll roll with it, I guess. All right, let's stop stalling and bring up the very glaring problem that Kitty brings up, and that is her synergy with Froggy. Since both Froggy and Kitty will attack together very often, almost every single time they attack, honestly, and that scares me because this is where the game starts to actually get stressful. They will obviously always attack opposite areas, and the way they work makes dealing with them at the same time very stressful. Since for Froggy, by the time he enters, your lantern already has to be off. You can't turn it off in response to him showing up or he will kill you. The same goes for Kitty, but vice versa. By the time Kitty shows up at your shed, your lantern light needs to be on. You cannot turn it on in response to seeing her or she will kill you. So, if they attack at the same time and require two completely different game states, how is this even going to be possible? Well, that's where the doors come into play and stalling characters. So let's start by talking about what exactly happens when you stall a character. Let's say Froggy shows up at your window and you decide to stall him by holding the door closed. He will start by banging on it for a few seconds before leaving. However, instead of resetting like he would if you dealt with him the way you're supposed to, he will instead just move back to camera 5 and will very shortly attack again. So, Froggy and Kitty attack at the same time. The way you have to go about dealing with them is pretty simple, but again, will get your nerves to shoot through the fucking roof. Let's say for this example, Kitty is going through the chimney and Froggy is going through the window. What you should do is turn the lantern on and hold the window door closed. Both Kitty and Froggy will show up at the same time. Kitty will be dealt with since you turned the lantern on, and Froggy will get pissed and move back to camera 5, wherein you can then turn the lantern back off and wait for him to attack again and deal with him as normal. And of course, you could do the exact opposite strategy and stall Kitty instead. Stalling the same character too many times will result in them eventually breaking the door down instead of actually being stalled. So it's probably in your best interest to alternate which character you stall so you don't get yourself rim jobbed on the job. Bars. Overall, this night isn't that hard, as Froggy doesn't activate until like halfway through the night so that you can learn Kitty, and then from there you'll really only have to deal with a double attack twice, maybe 3 times if you're unlucky. And of course, Dark is much more aggressive on this night as well, but this really shouldn't be too bad. That is, not yet. After completing the night, we get another post-night cutscene between our character, whose name has been confirmed to be Thomas, which makes sense because he is the size of a locomotive. Lorenzi asks us how the night went, and this time Thomas isn't a fucking moron and actually tells him what we saw. That being a toy cat crawling through his window, as well as other toys trying to attack him. Lorenzi plays stupid and tries to shift the conversation before eventually just leaving. Thomas is obviously pissed that they didn't tell him this would be happening, yet for some reason he still decides to continue coming back. Like, bro, I get it, money is tight, but I don't know if this is worth it. Oh yeah, and by the way, the actual reason we keep coming back is told to us after each cutscene. Curiosity tempts us into darkness. And you know what they say, curiosity killed the cat type shit. God damn! I'm feeling like a new age Dr. Seuss right now. Somebody stop me. Anybody, somebody hold me back. I'm unstoppable. Anyways, let's move on to night 3 before I give all the huzz sodden panties. All right, well, here we are, night 3. And it's on this night where we really start to notice this game's difficulty, because the character this night introduces is truly worse than stubbing your toe in the middle of the night on the coffee table. You know, usually I like to think of myself as a pretty tough guy, generally speaking, but when it comes to getting up in the middle of the night, it's just over for me. I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night once, busted my pinky toe on the island in my kitchen. I was down for 47 minutes. I couldn't even see my toe, but I just knew My toe was bent 90 degrees. Bleeding for sure. I could feel it. It was blood gushing. It's like a person died in my kitchen. That's what it feels like every time. But then I take a good look at my toe in the light and it's like nothing ever happened to it. There's truly nothing in the world that will make you feel like more of a bitch than that exact experience. Anyways, back to talking about the silly bear game with no bear present. The new threat introduced on this night is called Croco, and he resembles that stupid crocodile game that people always add like thumbtacks or razor blades to because they're retarded. Anyways, this guy is hands down the worst character we've seen so far in this game. So I'm betting you can take a guess exactly what it is he does. Let's play a quick game, everybody. Multiple choice time. Multiple choice time. Is Croco A find them on the camera character, B, an eye slot, C, a music box mechanic, or D, a nuisance character? I'll give you a little time to think about this one since it is a pretty tough one. All right, that's enough time. If you answered E, all of the above, then you'd be completely fucking right. God damn it. Because he is literally all four of those things at the same fucking time. Please, for the love of God, just kill me. End it. End it. Fuck. Croco will randomly move around the cameras and can go to any of them at any time. He will never try to attack your shed, so you don't have to worry about that. However, not only is he a character you constantly have to find on the camera, but he also runs on batteries and is a fucking music box. A music box that randomly wanders around the cameras. Is there any way my life could get any worse? Yes. The answer to that question is yes. How so? Great question. Croco does not work the same way a normal music box mechanic works. No, they somehow managed to make it even worse for us. You cannot click and hold the music box button. You have to click to wind up a little bit at a time, except you can't even spam click because after each click, there's a solid 2-second cooldown before you can click it again. And on top of that, his meter also decreases very quickly. So, let's imagine a fun little scenario together, shall we? Let's imagine that both Froggy and Kitty enter camera 5 at the same time. So you know you have to divert all of your attention to them. After stalling one, dealing with the other, and then dealing with the stalled character. And probably have to deal with the headache of the dark at least once throughout this process. After you finally finish dealing with them, Croco will probably have his battery drained past half. And since it takes literally forever to charge him back up because of his dookie booty cooldown time, getting him back up to max before you have another double trouble attack from Froggy and Kitty is going to be incredibly stressful. But I'm a fucking Omega Rizzler Chad, so I wasn't even novice. Again, this game does a really good job at introducing the threats, since both Froggy and Kitty won't activate on this night until around 2 a.m. So you have enough time to really understand how Croco works, which I really think is wonderful game design. After completing the night, of course, we get another post-night cutscene, this time between Lorenzi and an unnamed guy. If I were to guess, this character is probably the guy that runs the entire place we're guarding. I'm just gonna call him Goof until we get an actual name confirmed. Goof gets pissed at Lorenzi for telling Thomas about the moving toys and how to deal with them, since apparently they can't be letting that get out, which makes perfect sense, honestly. However, if they can't tell the guards about what is going on and they insist on having a security guard, then what is even the point? Since without telling the security guard how not to fucking die, how do they expect to keep a security guard? It's just very weird and something isn't quite adding up here. They mentioned having to kill us, and by kill us, I'm just assuming that means let the toys kill us. So maybe these toys need to eat humans? Something like Graveyard Shift at Freddy's type shit? I don't know at the moment, but I'm hoping that it gets explained soon. Anyways, time to move on to night 4, which surely won't add another character that causes me to rip a baby hippo in half. I hate to break it to you guys, it adds another character that gives me the strength to do what I just mentioned. Kind of. That's a bit of an exaggeration, I can't lie. I actually think the threat introduced on this night is pretty cool, and thank God the devs understand video game balancing and didn't turn this new character into an RNG nightmare, which they could have very easily done. The new threat introduced on this night are the gnomes, which is basically just one character, but there's 3 gnomes fused together, which is completely disgusting, but that's pretty par for the course when it comes to these types of character designs. So wait, fountain camera? What the fuck is that? This game probably has some of the best I've ever seen. They're so gross and creepy. This entire game looks super awesome and I really like it. It kind of reminds me of the art style of Remnants of Tubbyland, which I also really liked the looks of. Anyways, moving on to what the gnomes actually do. And once again, I actually think this mechanic is pretty cool. They combined the mechanics of Grunkfuss from One Night at Flumpty's and Rat and Vinny from Five Nights at Candy's 3, and I think it works really well together. The gnomes will start in the middle fountain camera, and that's where they'll stay. Upon checking that camera, you'll be able to see a patience meter in the top corner, just like Grunkfuck. It'll slowly drain down throughout the night, and once it empties, the gnomes will hot bottom to your office at the speed of sound. Thankfully, you don't even have to constantly watch these guys, since when they start to run, not only do they make a super loud sound cue, but they also completely overlay your cameras, letting you know they're on their way. Once they make it to your office, you need to have your lighter already pulled out and lit. They will spawn in a random place in your office, of which there are 5 possible locations they can be. You need to hold your lighter over their face like Rat and Vinny from Five Nights at Candy's 3, and eventually they'll jump to a new spot in the office where you'll need to do it again. Do this 4 to 5 times and they'll eventually make their way back to the fountain. I just really like mechanics like this. It makes the whole experience feel more immersive and makes it feel like I'm actually defending myself. However, there may be one potential problem you can think of when it comes to this character. That being, what about the other characters? It seems like the full attack of the gnomes takes quite a chunk of time. So how are we not going to get fucking bodied whenever the gnomes attack? Well, I actually have some of the best news in the entire world. This game was made by a very benevolent dev. Whenever the gnomes go into attack mode, every single character pauses what they're doing. That even includes Croco. This is the type of bliss we need to see in fan games more often. You're telling me that me beating this game actually comes down to skill and not just hoping that the game doesn't skull fuck me as hard as it possibly can? I love this. Please do this more. Anyways, of course the other characters' AI values increase during this night too, but as long as you're alternating who you stall between Froggy and Kitty, this night really shouldn't be a big problem. Something I also noticed on this night is why I felt the hitbox to the lantern was so weird. It's because you don't actually have to click the lantern. Just hover the lit lighter over it for a little bit and it will light. This is so much better now that I know this, so that I don't feel like I'm fucking up every single time I go to light it. Anyways, after completing the night, we of course get another post-night cutscene, and this one is really fucking cool and answers one of the questions I had last night. Once again, it takes place between Lorenzi and Goof, who I still don't know the name of. During this conversation, Goof is still super mad at Lorenzi since during the last night he went against Goof's wishes and called us to explain how to survive. During this cutscene, we learn exactly why Goof wants us to die so badly. And it's actually exactly what I expected because I'm a fucking lore god. There was a certain someone who showed up to the garden one day, and Goof isn't even sure it's from this world. Goof made a deal with this creature to feed him humans, and in return, Goof and Lorenzi get to live. So I was so fucking right. I'm just good. I'm just good. It's too easy. I'm better. I'm better! This is Graveyard Shift at Freddy's type plot, and I'm all for it. They hear a loud bang on the door. When Lorenzi asks if it's one of the toys that Goof built, Goof says it can't be since they only activate at midnight and it's currently only 11 p.m. And we know it's not Thomas either, so that means it can only be one other option. Him.
My hunger can't wait much longer. Time for you two to become my meal.
Absolutely terrifying. Both Goof and Lorenzi presumably get eaten, and Thomas has no idea about it. And since the curiosity beckons darkness, Thomas of course decides to go back to work another night, despite being told not to by Lorenzi. Here we are, and this night is about to get fucking insane. So strap in. Moving on to night 5, there's not a whole lot to talk about since there's nothing new introduced and just serves to be a much harder version of night 4. However, what happens after you complete night 5 is where something interesting happens. We get a pretty cool post-night cutscene. Take a look.
Here we are. Your curiosity has gone too far. You're in complete darkness. You want answers? Well, king is dead, but I took its form. They brought me food, but I'm still starving. Time to meet. Face to face.
And with that, we jump right into night 6. And let me tell you, this night is fucking crazy. Acting as this game's boss fight night, we only have Froggled to deal with, and he has several different attacks he can do. And 2 of them are some of the most stressful shit I've ever played through, I can't even lie. Let's start with his basic attacks that aren't terrifying. But before I really mention that, I want to talk about this fat bastard's character design. I think this is 100% the most disgusting character design I've ever seen from any FNAF game ever, and I'm not exaggerating. There's always been something about long arms that has made me super uncomfortable, and mixed with how disgusting his face looks, ew, what the fuck, dude, he is so fucking gross. Easily the coolest design I've ever seen by a long shot. Anyways, on to actually talking about his attacks, since that's probably important. Let's start with his easiest attack. Froggled will move to camera 5, just like Kitty and Froggy. Except something about how he moves is that he's about 600 times faster, it's fucking ridiculous. When he gets to camera 5, he too will choose to attack either your chimney or your window, so you have to make sure you are camping camera 5 to be able to tell. Now, upon entering this attack, he can do 2 variations of it. One of the attacks is very easy, and the other is the most stressful part of this entire night by a long shot. Let's get something out of the way. During this night, you're unable to toggle your lantern, and at around 3 a.m. it will go out for the rest of the night. But thankfully, Froggle doesn't give a shit about the lantern being on or not. So, when he gets to the shed, he will do either his hand attack or what I'm going to call his head attack. His hand attack is the easier one, so that's what I'll talk about right now. One more thing this night changes is that you no longer have your lighter. Instead, it's replaced with a crucifix. Why? How? Don't ask. It's just what we're dealing with. Once Froggled starts his hand attack, you will need to pull out the crucifix and hover it over his hand. He will then very quickly move his hand to the other entrance. This can be repeated several times in incredibly quick succession, so you need to be super fast. But don't worry, this is the easiest attack. It's about to get a lot worse. The next easiest attack I'll mention is his clone attack. Once he gets to camera 5, he has the chance to start the clone attack before going to your window or chimney. Fuck, holy fuck, that scared the shit out of me. Fuck me in my rear, dude. If he does, your cameras get forcefully pulled down and he'll turn into the gnome's attack where he'll go Rat and Vinny mode. Same thing with his hands. Take out your crucifix and follow him with it until he leaves. However, once he leaves, he will immediately return to camera 5, meaning he will do his hand or face attack quickly after dealing with the clones. Now we can move on to the 2 other attacks that Froggled can do and why they're so fucking stressful. Let's start with his find him on the camera mechanic, because of course he has one of those, and yes, I want to die. Thank you for asking. On the cameras, you will see the text, "Come find me." When this happens, he will obviously teleport to a random camera and you'll have to very quickly find him. I'm serious, you have little to no time to find this fat ass. And if that wasn't bad enough, once you find him, he'll teleport to another random camera. And he can do this up to 10 fucking times during this attack. It's fucking brutal. But I don't even think that that is the most challenging mechanic this guy has. No, that award goes to his head attack. Once again, he'll make it to camera 5 and decide to attack either your window or your chimney. When he does, if he chooses his face attack, he'll stick his face by the doors and you'll have to quickly close them. He'll bang on it and then at light speed show up at the other entrance. And yes, he will repeat this process several times really fucking quickly. Now, the reason why I feel like this attack is the most stressful is because of exactly how the doors work in this game. You don't just hover over them and click. That would be too easy. Instead, you need to make sure your mouse is actually touching the door, and then you have to click and drag it closed and hold it there. That's not really a big deal, but with how little time you actually have to do this, I can promise you that you will miss the door a few times, which will 100% end your run. Whoa, what the fuck? It's actually so stressful. It always had me sweating bullets, bro. I can't even lie. But if you can manage to keep your cool for long enough to deal with him, we get one more cutscene for beating the night. 6 a.m. Get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out of my dick!
This is the end. You've come a long way. You got what you wanted. I am a creature of darkness, tainted by blood and fear. The sun's rays will burn me to a crisp. Too juicy. Meat. I devoured the souls that came to me. I can still hear them begging for mercy. I feel their blood on my lips. And this only whets my appetite. I'm still hungry. And that means in the deep dark, where you lose yourself, I'll rip out and devour your heart. And this will be my final bite.
That was fucking awesome. Also, if you want to hear something a little less awesome and a little more retarded, directly after this, we get approximately 5 minutes of a Minecraft AMV.
What just happened?
Fuck?
What just happened?
What is this? What the fuck am I looking at? Why? I don't know. This is probably a reference to something. Five Nights at Froggy's Minecraft? I don't know. I don't know what this is, but it's 5 minutes long and it seems like a custom made song for this game. So maybe this is a remake of a Minecraft game? I don't know. You guys can tell me the lore. I have no idea. Now, you'd think after that performance we'd be done, but no. It gets worse, as there is somehow still one more night for us to complete. I have no idea what to expect, because at the time of writing this, I still haven't played it yet. But I am incredibly scared as to what it is I'm about to see, so let's just get right into it. Okay, so sorry to hype you guys up. Sunday is just a custom night, so nothing really interesting here. However, since everybody wanted me to play this game for so long, I actually managed to beat the 520 mode on my 3rd attempt because I'm just fucking Jesus. Literally, I'm God among men. I know. Worship me! Something I wasn't expecting is that there is one more thing to see after you complete the 520 mode, that being a teaser for Bloody Nights with Froggies 2. So get your hype up and then immediately let it fall to the floor because it quickly tells you that this game is never going to come up. And they literally tell you not to get your hopes up. Fantastic. But as far as I'm aware, that's all Bloody Nights with Froggies has to offer. What do you think is the most overused and bloated genre in the FNAF community? I know that might seem like a weird question, but in recent years, I really think I've come up with a really good answer to it. Just something that you see in FNAF games that has become sickening to see. Maybe you think the ransomware trend has run its course and needs a break for a while. Maybe you think boss fight nights have been done to death and we need something new. Or maybe it's something else entirely. Well, for me personally, I think every other FNAF game being about Fredbear has been done so much and I just really need a break. However, as I'm sure you could have guessed from me bringing this up, that is the type of game we'll be talking about today. And no, unfortunately for you, it isn't Fredbear game number 998433, so if you were hoping for that today, I apologize. But stick around because I think you'll really like this one too. Maybe. The game we'll be talking about today is called Welcome to Fredbears, and I'm willing to bet that even if you've seen this game before, you might not know which one it is just from me talking about it, since all of the titles of the Fredbears games are pretty much exactly the same. I would explain what the game is about, but that's what the entire video is, so just strap in, try the Big Mac meal for the first time, and let's get right into Welcome to Fredbears. Welcome to Fredbears starts with an opening cutscene. In this game, we actually play as William, which I think is pretty cool. We get a call call from an unknown number, and the man on the other end explains that he works at a storage facility in Utah. I personally didn't even know anybody actually lived in Utah. I thought that was just like some fairy tale place, but hey, I guess you learn something new every day.
Hello?
Hello?
Am I speaking to William Afton?
Yes, and you are?
I'm calling you on behalf of the Storage and Rental of Utah. Unfortunately, we have gone out of business, and we're accordingly emptying out all of our storage units, except for yours due to the excessive amount of items in your units. So please come to the storage facility at your earliest convenience, or you will be fined. If possible, tonight.
With that, William wastes no time and pulls right up to the storage facility like I pull up to Shotty's house after she had 3 bean burritos from Taco Bell. Jesus Christ. Dude, we're just getting started. What is wrong with me? After entering the building, we go to find our storage unit, only to see a sticky note on the door explaining that the key to our unit is on the desk in the main room, just making me waste my fucking time walking all the way back to the front desk to pick it up, only for us to then have to walk all the way back. Personally, I'm loving the direction this game is going already, aren't you? By the way, during this opening section, we have a to-do list to guide us along the way of what we're supposed to do. And I personally like to imagine that William is writing these notes to himself so that he knows what he has to do. And I think it's really funny that he's writing basic shit like find a unit, open the unit, like he's retarded and won't be able to remember basic things. Anyways, moving on. With that, we open our storage unit and step inside, only to realize that this just might be the largest storage unit to ever grace the face of the planet, because holy shit, this thing is gigantic. I happen to own a few storage units myself, and not a single one is even close to being this big, but that's really besides the point. Obviously, the real reason we're here is to move all of our belongings out of the unit, which I find odd because we only came here in our tiny little dinky car, knowing full well we have a storage unit full of shit to clear out. I guess we just really want to be moving for the next month straight. And now, would you believe me if I told you that even knowing we have to start moving things out, we don't start moving things out? I know. Hard to believe that we would come to this building and not do the one fucking thing we were tasked with doing. So you might be wondering, if we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, then what are we doing? Oh shit! Oh shit! Motherfucker old as shit! Look at the motherfucking glasses on that bitch! Dang, a fat motherfucker right here got a big old pot belly on that big boy. Fuck. Well, the answer to that question is simple. All we have to do is walk around the unit and look at sticky notes. As you can see, we have several animatronics around the area, and each is labeled with a sticky note. It seems like these variations of the characters are very early versions of the final designs, which would make sense since most of the Fredbear's games do take place a long time ago. Every time we pick up a sticky note, a page is added to our notebook where we're tricked into thinking that we're going to be learning something interesting about the characters, when in reality, that's not true, and we actually just learn how we're going to have to deal with each of these characters once we finally get into the night sections. Speaking of, when does that actually happen? Fantastic question, viewer of questionable age. I'm rewriting that line. That sounds awful. Fantastic question, viewer who probably isn't actually viewing the video, but is instead listening to it in the background. Let me tell you exactly what happens next. After we look at the last sticky note, we hear an alarm go off. Stepping out of our unit for a moment, we see that the door to the hallway we're in has been closed. Looking around, we see nothing weird, and then somehow fucking Circus Baby appears right next to us. Oh my fucking cry ass, bitch! The fuck was that, ho? Who the hell was that? What the fuck baby bitch doing in here? Tall and fuck, tall glass of water looking ass. No, seriously, where the fuck did she come from? We look in both directions and see nothing, and then somehow she's right next to us. Tell me how that makes any sense at all. Anyways, we have to do a short QuickTime event to get away from baby and then run to the security office. Now pause. Why the fuck do we have a security office inside of our storage unit? It's not like the security office is to the entire building. No, it's actually specifically inside of our unit. Tell me how that makes any sense at all. Oh yeah, it doesn't. After making our way into the office, we see Baby walk up to the window where we learn the first mechanic of this game. Throughout the night, Baby will approach our window. When she does, all we have to do is shut the power to the office off so that she can't see us, and eventually she'll leave. She will do this several times. It's also just scripted here at this moment. Throughout the game, we'll be able to pull out our notebook and read about the animatronics we took notes on, which will soon be attacking us. Something I chose not to do during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dexter Black. I instead chose to trial and error things for minutes on end because I forgot that I could look at this notebook. It's also in this notebook where we can see William live writing his thoughts instead of defending himself. This game is split into hours rather than nights, and on the first hour, he writes this.
Building power. It seems like the power in the building is out, except for this security office. The computer seems to be working. I can probably use it to get the power in the building up and running again. Until then, I'll just have to survive.
And with that, we're thrown into the first hour of the game, and this video can finally start sounding like all of my other videos. To start, let's go over the office and the tools at our disposal. During the free roam section, we picked up a flashlight, and we still have that now. We can flash this light, which is exactly how a flashlight works, so I don't know why I told you that. To our left, we have the door to this tiny room. It can be toggled and thankfully has no power system. You will see how I abuse this game's kindness with this mechanic a bit later. And finally, to our right, we have the second threat this game introduces, which I guess I'll talk about right now since he's literally right in our office. This is Fredbear. You might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't Fredbear one of the characters that we saw out in the storage area? And you would be right in saying that. However, this is also Fredbear. It's just another one because why make a new character when we could just fucking not, right? Yay, creativity! Throughout the night, Fredbear will try to get up and attack you. Dealing with him is incredibly easy. All you have to do is occasionally hold your flashlight on him and he'll sit his fat happy ass back down. Your flashlight also has no power, so you'll be happy to hear you don't really ever have to worry about that. Finally, the last thing to talk about is the way the night progresses. Even though we have a clock on our desk, that is very misleading as this game is not completed based on time, but is instead a task-based completion game, which you know what that means. No actual task, and it's just waiting with extra steps. Also on our desk is a computer. Turning on the computer will show two things that we have to reboot, the ventilation and the power. When you click on them, they will slowly start to reboot, and once both of them are rebooted, then the hour will be over. Very boring, but sure, whatever, I guess. Something I want to mention about Baby, since it actually makes sense to mention it now, is what happens when you turn the power off to deal with her. Well, that's very simple. Not only does your door open if it was closed, but of course your computer will turn off as well and progress to rebooting will be paused. Now, that's not a problem at all, but what is a problem is the embarrassing amount of times I forgot to turn the computer back on, leading to the night taking way fucking longer than it ever needed to. So, even though Baby did follow us to the room this night, she surprisingly isn't actually active at this point in time. Who is active, however, is Fredbear. No, not the Fredbear in our office. Well, yes, he is active too. I'm talking about the other Fredbear, the one that we saw a bit earlier. In hour one, we're attacked by two Fredbears at the same time. Talk about the worst double penetration of your life. This is a train you never want to ride on. Fredbear 2, as I will be calling him from now on, will be present outside of your door. Slowly throughout the hour, he will creep closer and closer to your office like Jared Fogle used to creep closer to playgrounds in broad daylight. All you have to do is literally the exact same thing as the Fredbear in our office. Occasionally flash your light through the doorway to scare him away. So as long as you're doing that semi-frequently, you'll be fine. And you'll be doing it a lot because this is what the gameplay looks like all the time.
All I know is DDF, AAF, DDF, AAF. That's all I know.
But yeah, that's all this first hour has to offer, except you'll be excited to hear that this game actually has some post-night minigames that are just as mind-numbing as the actual nights. Aren't you just so fucking excited? I know I am! After the reboot is up, obviously the power goes out since it's all rebooting. During this time, we need to turn around and replace 3 fuses in the generator so that the reboot can be completed. Doing this is very easy, but very time-consuming. You will have to very slowly unscrew 6 different screws to get the fuses out. Each screw will take about 30 fucking seconds to undo, so be prepared to be here for the next 8 years. I'm not very good at math. After all of the screws are out, you have to remove the 3 fuses, grab 3 more from a box on your right, and replace them, then re-screw the goddamn screws. Are you fucking kidding me? Holy shit. Of course, It's not just that easy. Everybody knew it wasn't going to be that easy. During this minigame, you're armed with a lighter. What happened to your flashlight? I literally have no idea. It's not tied to power, so I don't see why we couldn't use it, aside from the fact that the dev thought using a lighter during this section would just be more creepy. Who really knows? Both Fredbear and Bonnie will be coming for your cheeks during this section. However, you'll notice that it's really only ever Fredbear that's a problem, and you'll understand why once I explain how they work. You will have to listen very closely since they both are pretty quiet. Fredbear will attack from your left and Bonnie will attack from your right. When you hear Fredbear moving, all you have to do is turn left and hold your lighter in his face until he sits back down. Something about this lighter though is that it doesn't always light up properly on the first go, so you'll have to flick it quite a few times, which I will admit is pretty nerve-wracking and is pretty fucking cool. I'll explain Bonnie a bit later since the chances of him attacking you during this section are pretty much zero. So for now, let's finish up the fuses and reboot the power and start on the next hour. Something I do actually like about this game is how it really feels like it's one constant night throughout. After you finish the fuse, you turn back around and the next hour continues right there. It's just a simple detail, but a lot of the time it's the simple details I like the most. This hour does introduce someone new, who is really just a copycat of a character we've talked about already. You know, recently, as I've been looking for games, I've been going back on older games I've played on Dexter Black and wondering why I've never made videos about them. Now that I've finally been starting to do that, it's pretty obvious to me why I haven't. A lot of the FNAF games I've played really just don't have a lot to talk about, and I don't want my videos to be under 20 minutes. That's why a lot of the time in these newer Dexter White videos, you'll hear me go on retarded tangents more often. I don't want you guys to have a 10-minute video to watch. Anyways, moving on. The new character introduced on this night is Bonnie. Hey, awesome, we were just talking about you. Now, technically, this character is Spring Bonnie. However, the sticky note calls him Bonnie, so I'm going to be calling him Bonnie too, since that takes a lot less time to type. And I have a pounding migraine right now. I want to get this script writing section of the video's pipeline done as fast as I possibly can. Bonnie is pretty much just baby, and by pretty much, I mean he literally is. Bonnie will occasionally walk up to the window in front of you. When he does, all you have to do is turn the power off until you hear him knock on the glass, and then a few seconds later, you'll be able to turn the power back on again. And for the love of fuck, do not forget to turn your computer back on like I did. Holy shit. I wonder how many more times I'm gonna forget to turn that thing on and just absolutely just fucking ream myself. Anyways, now we can move on to talking about the post-hour minigame. Hooray! You may be wondering what there even is to talk about here since it's going to be the same thing every single time. And that's a very good question. But worry not, I have an answer for you. On this hour is when Bonnie will finally be here in this reboot section. However, he's also joined by the other Fredbear. Fredbear 2 works the exact same as Fredbear 1, except he attacks the opposite side. Same shit, different day with him. Just turn your lighter on and he'll go away. Bonnie, however, is a bit different and is literally completely useless as a character during this section. He will only ever attack your right side, and he has a different sound cue that plays from Fredbear 2. The difference between the sound cues is incredibly noticeable, so you will literally never mess them up and confuse the two. When Bonnie attacks, all you have to do is not turn the lighter on, so you can literally just fucking ignore him. It's not even like you can't move. No, you can move as much as you want. You can even keep unscrewing and he won't bother you. So like, what is even the point of having him there? I have no idea. Anyways, that's all I wanted to talk about. Let's move on to the next office hour. Hour 3 is quite literally the exact same as Hour 2. No new threats are introduced, everyone is just a little bit more aggressive. That is, except for Bonnie, who is a fuck ton more aggressive. So much so that you may have him attack pretty much the moment you turn the power back on. He means business, and he's not messing around. And of course, when you're like me and forget to turn the computer back on, with how much he attacks, this hour will slow to a fucking crawl. It's completely brutal and one of the most painful experiences I've ever been through, and I've been mauled by a dog and hit by a car, so that's saying a lot. I really just feel like there could have been so much more done with this game. Truly, they had a pretty interesting free roam section at the beginning of this game, and they just don't use it anymore. This gameplay loop of turning back and forth is the rest of the game. I think it could be really interesting if, let's say, for example, after completing an hour, the batteries to our flashlight died, and we had to exit the security office and walk around the darkness looking for new batteries batteries while the animatronics patrolled around and we only had our lighter. I know I personally hate stuff like that, but really anything would be an improvement from how boring this game really feels. And like, not even introducing a new character each hour makes it even worse. It's so boring. Like, I just saw Fredbear, Fredbear 2, and Bonnie. Why are you only giving me them again? Add something new. Even if it's not a new character, add a new mechanic. Make the task you have to complete each night something different, not just a fucking waiting simulator. Make one of the tasks be a minigame where you have to move through a maze or something, like the Tron game you have to play when you're doing heists in GTA Online. That'd be so fucking cool. But no, instead we're given barnacle dick, bottom of the barrel ChatGPT ass ideas. Actually, that's not even true. I bet ChatGPT could think of a somewhat different way to spice up the gameplay a little bit. This game looks really good and the voice acting we've heard is amazing. It's just really disappointing that the actual gameplay of the game isn't interesting at all. Anyways, of course, after completing the task, we turn around and do the exact same fuse box task again, which, by the way, I will mention is very odd. Why are we having to replace the fuses every hour? This seems very counterintuitive. William has to be spending upwards of $12,000 on fuses monthly to keep this shit lit up. And we know he is because when we first entered the unit, the lights were on. And from the phone call, it sounds like he hasn't been there in a while. So like, what the actual fuck is going on? So much of this game just doesn't make any sense. But whatever, let's just move on to the next hour where hopefully something new is introduced. Hour 4 or 3 a.m. once again, and I'm not kidding, literally introduces nothing new again. Once more, it's just Fredbear, Fredbear 2, and Bonnie, except they're more aggressive than before. But spoiler alert, there's so little to do during this game that even if their AI is increasing, you really won't be able to tell since it's not any harder. Flash, turn, turn, flash, turn, turn, flash, repeat. If you ever hear Bonnie, shut the power off. When that is the gameplay loop, it really doesn't fucking matter how fast you make the characters, since the only difference you'll actually notice is that each night turns into a fucking slog because you have to turn the power off for way longer, meaning that your tasks aren't being finished, which doesn't make the game more challenging, it just makes the game way more uninteresting. If you haven't noticed, we're halfway through this game and we haven't had to close the door a single time. During my playthrough, I was choosing to, but there's literally no character throughout the game so far that would make you close this stupid door. I'm honestly confused why we can't have it closed the whole time. Sure, Fredbear 2 will kill us, but I wonder how that's even possible. If we have a robot that's able to open the only door defending us, I think we have a much bigger issue on our hands in all honesty. Since I literally have nothing to talk about right now, I guess I could bring up what happens if you don't turn the lights off for Bonnie, since I'm just now noticing I didn't do that. If you don't turn the power off, he'll punch a hole in your window like he's Plank from Five Nights at Candy's. That's about it. But guys, come on, can you tell I've really got nothing to work with in this game? And of course, the post-night minigame is nothing different at all. Fuck trying something new and exciting, right? The entire FNAF community are all retards and they'll just eat up anything you put in front of them. And that pisses me off because it worked on me. I beat the fucking game even though I thought it was boring. Maybe I'm the problem. I have no idea. I want to keep yapping about stuff since I can tell this script really isn't going to be much longer if this game keeps going in the direction it's going in, but I've really got nothing else to talk about here, so let's just move on to hour 5. Hour 5 thankfully does actually give me something else to talk about. 2 new things, actually. Don't know why you couldn't have just split them up so that the last night wasn't so fucking useless, but oh well, I suppose. This night reintroduces Baby, so let's get to talking about her since her mechanic has changed just slightly. Same thing as before. She'll walk up to your window on occasion just like Bonnie, and all you have to do is turn the power off. But then she'll walk to the left. This signals that she's about to attack your door, so you'll need to close it. Now you might be thinking, how are you going to be able to turn the power back on and close the door by the time Baby is able to get over to it? Well, come on in real close because that's a really good question. And luckily I do have an answer. You're just not really gonna like it. You can actually close the door while the power is out. Yes, I'm serious. I lied before. There's just so many goddamn problems here. I don't even know where to start. What do you mean the door can close while there's no power? It's a mechanical door. It needs power. What is this bullshit? Name one other FNAF game with a closable mechanical door that can be closed while there's no power. I'll wait. Oh yeah, it fucking isn't any because that's stupid and doesn't make any fucking sense, now does it? That means that the only thing the power controls is the light to the room we're in. No, not the flashlight, the room light and the computer. That's literally it. What do we even need to reboot anything for? This seems completely pointless now. I could probably talk all day about this, and while I would love to pad out for runtime, I also don't want to piss you guys off, so let's just move on. The final threat introduced on this night is Foxy, who is probably the most useless character in this entire game. And I know that may come to you as a surprise, because every character in this game seems pretty useless. Foxy attacks via the door. And I bet from myself saying that you can already guess exactly how he works and exactly why he's so useless. But in case you aren't able to put those pieces together by yourself, allow me to assist you. Occasionally, Foxy will sprint at your door and you'll have to close it to stop him from eating your butt. However, since the door has no limit to how long it can be closed for and it doesn't open when your power is off, you will probably never see Foxy throughout your entire playthrough. Just occasionally hear him slam on the door. This may make you wonder what I was talking about earlier where I said I was going to abuse this game's kindness. Editor, run it back. You will see how I abuse this game's kindness with this mechanic a bit later. This is that point. Since you still need to have the door open to be able to check on Fredbear 2, you can't literally have it closed the entire night. And I get the funny feeling that with this in mind, the dev thought the possible problem of closing it the entire night would be solved. But guess what, fucker? You couldn't be more wrong. All you have to do is open the door, quickly flash in less than a second to reset Fredbear. Since, contrary to what I've seen other people do in their playthroughs, you don't actually have to hold the flashlight on him until he leaves. You just have to hit him with it for longer than 1 frame. Then all you have to do is immediately close the door again. And if you get good enough at doing this, even if Foxy just so happens to be running at your door in the exact moment you open it, it won't be open for nearly long enough for him to enter the office. So he is quite literally a useless character. Awesome. So even though 2 threats were introduced on this night, it's basically like no threats were introduced at all. I love my life. Speaking of useless, we have the next post-night minigame to talk about. And this time around, it actually does do something a little bit different than the previous ones. Just kidding, I fucking lied like normal. It's just as boring and repetitive as the other post-night minigames we've mentioned. So let's stop wasting our time and just move on to Hour 6. Hour 6, surprisingly, once again introduces something new to the mix. And I'm actually not lying this time. However, with them introducing a new character on this night, it actually means that each hour could have had one thing introduced each, and this game just chose not to do that, which will forever be mind-boggling to me. This new character is Freddy, I think. I have no idea what the fuck it is. When you guys see it, you will have to comment down below on who you think this is supposed to be, because I really can't tell. This new threat, who I'll call Freddy, is another window attacker, since we've already established that the door is useless. When he approaches your window, he makes it clear that he has night vision, since turning off the power will not be enough to stop him. What you'll have to do instead is actually a lot less annoying, but hey, at least it's something new. Once he approaches, all you have to do is hold your flashlight on his face until he leaves. This could have been a good opportunity to turn him into a sort of Candy's 3 fight where he moves his head around and you'll have to follow it, but unfortunately that did not happen and he's just stationary. But again, at least it's something new that actually makes me have to do something else. And from what I could tell during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dexter Black, he doesn't make any sound cues when he reaches your window, giving you an actual reason to flash the window consistently because up until this point, you didn't have to, and for some reason, you can't even really see him in the window. While I am happy that this game has started to pick up on things to talk about, I do wish they were a bit more interesting so I could talk about them a little bit longer without repeating myself. But sometimes I just can't be that lucky. So once we repair this shit one last time, there's only one more thing to do. And no, it's not another repair post-night minigame, thankfully. Instead, it's just listening to a cutscene that, in all honesty, is pretty cool. So I'll just let you guys sit back and take a look.
Hello, William. It's me. You still recognize me, don't you? Well, you should, I suppose. After all, it was you who left me like this. Why didn't you do anything? Scared of getting the blame? Now standing here, 17 years later, all the blame falls on you. 17 years, William. left me here for 17 years, soaking in my own blood, rotting in our creation, praying you would return. Now you're here. You've endured what I couldn't, and now you have to live with it. Our legacy.
And there we go. An unknown person walks up to us in a springlock suit. I can only assume this person is supposed to be Henry, since he refers to the suit he's in as our creation and we play as William. But I actually think this is a really interesting twist on the original story. Instead of William dying in the springlock suit, Henry did, and William just hid his corpse away in a storage unit for 17 years, which is an insanely long time to be conscious and unable to do anything. So I can totally see Henry's frustration here. However, of course, you guys know me, I always find a way to complain about something, and I found something that doesn't make sense during this cutscene to point out. Do you want to tell me how the hell that text was appearing on the screen? How was Henry able to set that up? Did he program that into the monitor and then rehearse the actions he does at the window for 17 years just waiting for William to arrive? That's really the only thing I could think of that would make this make any sense at all. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But with that, that's all Welcome to Fredbear's has to offer. What it really has to do with Fredbear, aside from the fact that there are 2 Fredbears in it, I really don't know. I feel like this game could have done a lot better with a better name, but what do I know? Overall, I think Welcome to Fredbear's looks wonderful and has some nasty and awesome character designs. However, the gameplay loop is just so unfulfilling, boring, and headache-inducing from all of the whiplash that I really just couldn't enjoy it fully. And while I do think that the final cutscene is pretty cool, and I like the way this game changed the original story, I don't quite think that's enough to warrant me recommending this game to people who are looking for an interesting FNAF experience. Stories in Five Nights at Freddy's games. Typically, one of the most talked about parts of these games we love so much. However, I do need to bring up a question. When's the last time you've heard a FNAF story that you actually found interesting? After all, most of the stories in the genre are just retellings of the original story, and I think we can all agree it's starting to get old. Of course, every once in a while we get a masterpiece like Graveyard Shift at Freddy's or Chica's Party World Rebaked, but when's the last time you can really say you heard something completely new? Well, the game we'll be talking about today, in my opinion, has one of the best stories of all time. Split into 2 games, it goes on to tell one of the most unique stories FNAF has ever told. And the time between releases was almost an entire decade, with the second game only coming out earlier this year. The game we'll be talking about today is called The Last Sigh, the FNAF game with the most depraved story. The Last Sigh begins with a cutscene which takes place in an 8-bit minigame side-scroller. Usually these minigames are top-down, so this was pretty interesting. The art was actually pretty nice as well, and before we really dive into this game, I should make it clear that originally I'm pretty sure this game was in Spanish, as it has just been dubbed into English. So in some places there will probably be some spelling errors in translation. The opening cutscene gives us our main character, whose name is Valentina, which is 100% the name of a porn star. Actually, I just checked, and while it's not the first name of a porn star, it is the last name of one. We learned that our grandma, whose name is Omegna, which is insane by the way, has given us a job as a security guard at her antique shop. Why does a family-owned shop need an overnight guard? That I have no idea. Either way, our mother isn't happy with us because she wants us to have a different job. Why? I don't know. A job is a job. Why are you pissed off? Vernon, the name of this guy, no idea what relation he has to Valentina, but whatever. He says that our mom is impatiently waiting for us, and our grandma wants us to sign the contract to work for her quickly since the shop has been suffering. And first of all, why would I sign a contract to work for my grandmother? That just seems a bit weird. And second of all, if the business is struggling, why are you hiring another employee? That doesn't even make sense. Eventually, we do sign the contract and voila, get the reasoning for this entire game even existing. We even get a cute little note from our grandma telling us good luck, which is usually just seen as a kind gesture, but in this specific situation, I'm going to take it as a sort of threat. After that, we get our first phone call call, and this is where I noticed that this game does phone calls exactly how Project Readjusted 1 did phone calls. That being having the phone call take place before the actual night. While that may be nice to help us just sit and listen, something you'll notice about these calls is that they are literally long as fuck. And to really let you know how long they're going to be, I'm just gonna play out the first call in its entirety, since it also does a really good job of setting the scene for this game.
Hello? Cristobal?
Hello? Valentina? Is that you?
Yeah, it's me. What's up? Why did you call me at this hour?
Well, your parents asked me to call you in order to be sure that you and Camilo have arrived at Granny's shop and that it's alright. It could be done by their own, but, you know, they're a bit busy with their business trip and all that.
Yeah, I know. By the way, it's not necessary for you to call me and worry about me. I'm fully grown up. I can take care of myself.
If you say so. By the way, it's probably that they're more worried of Camilo than any other thing. By the way, how is he?
He's alright. He's sitting in the corner of the room playing with his tablet. He wanted to explore the place, but I'm scared of letting him go around alone. When I officially start my shift, I'll send him to sleep in the back room. It's full of boxes and those things, but I adjusted it to make it more comfortable. To be honest, I feel it was dumb of my parents to have him come with me. Also, this place is a bit spooky during the night.
Spooky?
Yeah, it looks like the perfect place to make a horror movie with those overused jump scares and those cheap resources.
Come on. Don't be shy. I don't believe that ghosts and those things really exist.
I don't know if I believe that, but I feel as though one of those armors at the entrance will become alive and start moving around.
Oh, I think you have seen a lot of television, cousin. From now on, only focus on watching who enters to rob the things of the shop. Then, if you like, you can worry if the doll of your room is cursed or not.
So funny. Alright, what else did my parents say?
Well, they also asked me to try and convince you to quit that job. But I know you aren't going to do it, even if I asked you to do it. You're so obstinate.
It isn't only obscenity. I need the money. I've been more than a month without work. Also, Grandma needs my help.
I know, don't worry. I'm not going to ask you to quit, but just take care of yourself. If anything bad happens, call me, okay?
Okay, I'll have it in mind. Although I'm economically bad, I still can't pay for the phone bill.
I see. It's fine. I'll call you tomorrow then. Now, I gotta leave. Because I have a early shift in the police department.
Alright. Anyway, I have to rest too. Talk to you tomorrow. Rest well.
You too. Take care. Good night.
So, that was long as fuck, huh? The reason I showed you that call is because it explains a lot of backstory about our character that I didn't want to have to talk about myself because I don't really like the lore of these games, I can't lie. But here we go. We're watching for thieves and apparently the place is haunted. Who gives a shit? Let's just get into the actual gameplay. But hold up, guys. I gotta interrupt again to tell you all that we officially are partnering with Makeship again to bring you an all-new Romeo Skaggs plushie, baby! You guys absolutely loved the first Skaggs plush that we released a few months ago, and I've been getting messages from you guys showing me that the new plushies have finally arrived. And since our last campaign did so well, Makeship wanted to work with me again. No petition this time. Just go to the link in my description to pick up your very own Romeo Skaggs. He'll be there for you when the Huzz aren't, which, let's be honest, is probably all the time. And I'll make a deal with you guys. If we can get this Romeo Skaggs plushie to get 1,000 sales by the end of the campaign, we will release another plushie of Skaggs in a maid dress, since I know that's something a lot of you freaks have been wanting. And our last plush almost sold 800, so I know that this is a milestone that we can hit. What are you waiting for? Go to the link in my description and cop yourself the new Romeo Skaggs for when you're having those those lonely nights. Thanks again for all of your guys' support. I wouldn't be where I was today if it wasn't for you. Now, let's get back to the video. Sorry for interrupting. Twice. Alright, so night one. I'm just gonna come right out and say it. This game is fucking terrible. Holy shit, it's so fucking bad. But we'll get into exactly why as the video goes on. Before we start talking about the 7 threats this night introduces, yes, I'm serious, it introduces fucking 7 of them, we should talk about the tools at our disposal. Let's start with our flash beacon. It's basically just a flashlight, but shittier. You know how with a flashlight you can toggle it on and off? Well, not the flash beacon. Every time you click, a fraction of a second of light will burst out of the shot, basically illuminating nothing. You have no battery life for this beacon, so if you want to see something, then what you have to do is just fucking spam click a lot, and this is what it'll look like. Doesn't that just look so fucking fun and totally not the most annoying thing in the entire world? Of course, we have a camera system as well, as you probably could have guessed. They also have no power attached to them, thankfully. Something to point out about them is that there is a metric shitload of characters you'll have to look through. Except, I kind of lied because even though this game has this many fucking cameras, only about 5 of them are even actually important, so we'll just get used to those. You can also use your flash beacon while the cameras are up, so if there's something in your office and you know it's there, you can flash it with your beacon while searching through the cameras, which honestly is pretty nice. The final tool I want to talk about right now is the turntable. To your left, you will see this turntable and it's connected to an extension cord. You have to click on the glowing red switch to turn it on, and once it's on, the power to the building gets turned off and is used to power the turntable. I really have no idea why this happens, but it happens, so let's just live with it. Alright, that's about all of the tools that really matter, so let's jump into talking about the whopping 7 fucking threats introduced on this night. I have no idea whose idea was to add that many, but fuck it, let's just talk about all of them. And just a fair warning, the names for the characters in this game are flat out the most retarded shit I've ever heard, so prepare yourself. The first character we'll talk about is Huggins the Clock. And yes, it's literally just your clock. They made it a threat because fuck it, why not? Pretty cool though, I can't even lie, I've never seen something like that before. Every single time the clock changes to a new hour, Huggins will desynchronize his clock from the actual time. When he does, you'll have to quickly add or remove an hour from the clock to sync it back up. If you don't, then he's gonna put his clock without the L directly in your rear. Pin and Pawn are the next 2 fuckers I want to mention. They're these little stupid dolls on your right desk. At random, they will just fall over. Fucking retards. When they do, all you have to do is flash them and they'll jump back up onto their stands. If one of them leaves the table, you don't lose, but if both of them leave, then it's game over. Something you might be noticing is that these threats are not very challenging sounding at all. And while that's true that most of the characters in this game don't pose that big of an issue, what makes the game truly fucking horseshit is its terrible case of post-shift 2 syndrome, as it literally never tells you under any circumstance how to deal with these threats. It's not mentioned in any phone calls, it's not written down anywhere, and there's not even an explanation after you die to a character. You're just left to fucking figure it out on your own. Do you know how stupid that is? Do you know how retarded that is? Who made this game? Satan? Because I don't know anybody else that could create dog shit quite as steamy as this fucking pile of fecal matter right here. Anyways, let's continue. There's still a fuck ton of characters to talk about. Just keep in mind that you're never told what I'm about to tell you. Handy the Panda is both the most generic name for a panda of all time and the next threat this night introduces. Handy will start on camera 2B and move to 1B, then 1A, then 3C. Before we continue, I want to mention that every single animatronic in this game has the exact same sound cue, and it is incredibly loud directly in my fucking ears. When Pandy gets to your office, you need to very precisely put your mouse in the middle of his face, not a pixel too far left or too far right in the middle. Then spam your beacon right in his stupid bear eyes. Do this enough and he'll start violently shaking, which would imply you gave him a seizure, which I really hope is canon. And then after that, keep flashing him more since you can't stop when he's shaking. Only then will he finally leave you alone. All right, Dovey the dog is the next character to talk about. He is the first of 4 camtronics I want to talk about. And camtronic is a new term I'm coining to reference a character in a FNAF game that solely takes place on the cameras. I expect it to be used forever now. Thank you. Anyways, Dovey is super easy. Most basic camtronic of all time. He will start in Cam 2A. He's gonna try to progress through 3 different phases in this cam camera, and all you have to do is flash him once to make him go back on stage. If at any point you let him progress 2 stages, then he'll never be able to go back to stage 1, instead having his furthest back stage be stage 2, obviously making him much more scary to deal with overall. So how about we all just agree to not let that happen? Next up is Trojan, not the condom. Instead, it's the troll face mafia gangster. Yes, I'm serious, that's its name. I think it'd be more serious sounding if he was just a box of condoms, I can't even lie. Trojan starts in camera 3A and is quite literally exactly the same as Dovey. Seriously, the mechanic is identical. Just flash him to keep him away, and that's it. Next up is Dibby and Daba. Holy shit, these might be the worst fucking names yet. I can't quite decide. They're all so uniquely terrible. These characters are basically just one since they move together in tandem. They're in camera 3B, and they do the exact same thing as Trojan and Dovey. Are you beginning to notice a pattern with these camera characters? Because I am. They're all the fucking same. Flash to keep them back. Moving on. Finally, we move on to Karen, who is the name of a fucking dragon. So why the hell did they give a dragon the name Karen? Who knows? But do you guys want to take a guess what she does? She starts in either camera 4A or camera 4B. She can move between these two cameras whenever she wants, but her central mechanic is exactly the same as all of the other Camtronics. That being, you just have to flash her every once in a while to stop her from fucking you. Hooray! Doesn't this just sound like such a fun, cool, and awesome game? No. Yeah, that's because it's just fucking not. This game doesn't have any post-night minigames, so that means we're free to just jump right into night 2, is what I would say if we didn't have another phone call. And remember how long that last phone call was? Yeah. Well, the phone call for night 2 is 6 fucking minutes long! No, I'm not joking! Why the hell is it so fucking long? It's double the length of the first night, and we're not even in game, so we can't even click through the cameras. We're actually just stuck looking at this stupid fucking wall for 6 minutes while some bitch talks into my ear about some shit I'm really not paying attention to. God fucking damn it, bro! During the phone call, Valentina mentions no signs of intruders, but of course mentions the moving characters. Parallels are drawn to the robots that move around the Fazbear restaurants, so I guess this game takes place in the same universe, so that's pretty cool. Haven't really seen that since we've covered Jolly. They talk about how the characters are sensitive to light, which we've already had to figure out on our own. Our cousin says she'll bring it up to grandma, but for some reason, we say we'd rather figure it out on our own. Why? I don't fucking know. Moving on to the night section. Night 2 introduces 3 new threats, bringing the total up to 10, and it's only the second night, so I guess I'll just kill myself. The first goon I want to talk about is Snowball and Ghost, the first not completely retarded name I've heard in this game. And these characters are the sole reason why we need our record player or the turntable. It's the same fucking thing. He serves to be an annoyance character and not a character that will actually kill you. Throughout the night, Snowball will turn off your fucking turntable himself, and will keep his finger over it to prevent you from turning it on. This is where Ghost comes into play. While your turntable is off, Ghost will start to slowly manifest in front of your desk. Once he fully appears, he'll rip you limb from limb. Now you might be thinking, if I can't interact with Snowball, how am I supposed to prevent this from happening? Well, once again, the game never fucking tells you this. But after a certain amount of time, God knows what, Snowball will just choose to take his finger off the turntable with no sound cue, allowing you to turn it back on. So you just need to constantly be checking on this guy to know if it's safe or not to look at him again. And look at this stupid fucker's smug ass face. Stop looking at me like that before I take your carrot and shove it right up your ass. Next up is Matty Gavillion, who I'm just going to be calling Matt because typing Matty Gavillion just takes way too fucking long and I'm not about to do all that like 16 times. Occasionally, Matt will start to play a little tune on his guitar. The song will either be in your left or right ear. If you hear it in your right ear, you have to flash your vent, which I've neglected to mention so far because up until this point, it hasn't been important. Anyways, if you hear the guitar on your left side, then all you have to do is flash the hallway until it stops, and congratulations, you done. Moving on, the final threat introduced on this night is Cocoa Bite. who is pretty straightforward. He will make his way from camera 2 all the way to the front of your office. You deal with him in the exact same way you deal with Pandy. You may be wondering why I'm talking about a game that's this fucking boring, so I'll go ahead and spoil the surprise for you. This game has a sequel that is a lot fucking cooler and that I really do want to talk about. But in order for me to do that, I have to first talk about this fucking dumpster fire. Anyways, night 3 time. Phone call for night 3 is 5 fucking minutes long for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Solely this long, probably just to piss me off. The phone call reveals another instance of supernatural phenomena where Valentina experiences nervousness and hallucinations intensified by the turntable's music. The cousin provides advice to unplug the turntable, but Valentina hesitates for sentimental reasons and practical concerns of breaking antiques. The turntable cannot simply be unplugged because of the snowman's interference. Maybe perhaps cutting it would work. They talk about not bringing Camillo, which I'm pretty sure is Valentina's cousin, in for night 4, and that's really all the phone call has to talk about. During night 3, you get the ability to cut the cord on the outlet to the turntable, but spoiler alert, if you do, Snow Bitch will just kill you, so don't do that. Pretty cool that you're allowed to though. This night only introduces one new threat, but if there's one thing you know about this game, it's the guy we're about to talk about. His name is Nabar, which those of you with a keen eye will be able to notice is an anagram for Barney. And the reason why it's an anagram? Oh yeah, it's because Nabar is literally just fucking Barney. Why did they not call him Barney? I have no idea. Unfortunately, he's not even remotely interesting at all. He's just exactly the same as both Pandy and Coco Bite. Get to the office, spam flash him, and he leaves. Boring as fuck. Now, at the end of the night, we get some dialogue of Valentina going into the back room where Camillo is supposed to be, except Camillo is fucking missing because he was kidnapped, and it was at this point where I really started to question what the fuck I was even playing. We hear a scream, presumably Camillo's, followed by a disembodied voice saying, and night 3 comes to a close. What a wild ride so far. Let's move on to the night 4 phone call, which thankfully this time is only a single minute long, so I'll just let it play out.
Valentina, where are you?
In Grandma's store, of course. I have to find Camillo.
Are you crazy? It's dangerous. You should stay home. The complaint is already made, and your parents will come back tonight. Leave the search for Camillo to the police.
I can't do it, Cristobal. Don't you understand? I can't sit idly by for the cops to decide to act. They said they can't do anything until several days have passed since the complaint. I don't plan to wait that long.
It's part of their protocol.
I don't care about protocol. What if it's too late? You know what? Forget this. I'll find Camillo by myself.
Night 4 introduces 2 new threats, and thankfully, one of them actually has a new mechanic, so let's just quickly talk about the fucking snooze fest first, that being Bait and Clop. He's just Pandy again, come to your office, flash, boring as fuck, now I'm into the goods. The next threat introduced on this night is called the Armor. The Armor is really fucking cool, but he's so slow that you'll honestly barely encounter him, which is really unfortunate because once again, he's really cool. It'll make its way from the entrance to your office, and this time, instead of just flashing his face, you have to turn on the turntable until he leaves. Now listen, I know I said he was gonna be interesting, but shut the fuck up and trust me, we're not done talking about this game yet, so it'll get a little bit better, I promise. But that's really all Night 4 has going on, so let's move on to Night 5. Night 5's phone call is back up to 5 fucking minutes for no reason. Why is it doing this to me? I want to kill myself. This is torture. Valentina makes a voicemail to Cristobal. She's expressing her deep concern over his and Camillo's disappearance and the supernatural events encountered. She speculates that the antiques and animatronics themselves might be responsible for the thefts and movement within the store, indicating sentient or autonomous behavior in the haunted setting. Suddenly, a sinister voice mocks the player, marking the probable endgame scene or a game over scenario. The antagonist reveals they had to get rid of Cristobal and warns the player they might not escape alive, though she might get to meet him soon. Alright, Night 5 introduces both the best, yet at the same time most frustrating character throughout this entire game. That character is Nico Gavillion, who I'm just going to be calling Nico since that's a hell of a lot easier. Throughout the night, Nico will randomly appear in front of you with a ring around him. The ring will be filled with letters of the alphabet completely scrambled around. You need to click the letters to spell the word Nico using the letters around him. This is a really interesting mechanic, and I've never seen anything quite like it. I'm not gonna question how it makes sense since this game has already made it clear there's weird paranormal shit, so who knows, maybe Nico just doesn't like his own name for some reason. Also, for what purpose did they have to make this guy's head so fucking big? God damn, bro! Of course, the AI of all of the other characters are increased as well, but that goes without saying. But that's all this night really has to offer. After completing it, we hear Valentina send a voicemail to her grandma. The final voicemail to grandma frames most of the events. 5 nights of ongoing terror at the antique store, strange animatronics, and supernatural activity. Valentina insists on meeting in person to reveal the bizarre occurrences, acknowledging the disbelief others might have, but underscoring the urgency and danger. She states before she leaves that she wants to look around the place, noting a door she saw that piqued her interest. And yes, by the way, of course, even after that, there's still a night 6. And no, there's no boss fight night. That wasn't really a big thing back when this game was made. It's just a harder version of night 5. Who really cares? What we do care about is the cutscene that takes place after night 6. This cutscene goes back to the 8-bit style we saw at the beginning of the game. In this minigame, it's revealed that our grandma has been evil the whole time or some stupid bullshit nobody cares about. The part that's actually kind of cool is Valentina gets fucking jumped by grandma and is stuffed inside of a puppet suit left to die. Fantastic. Nice to know all that work we did was for nothing. Anyways, that's all the last Psy 1 has to offer. As I've already said, there's another game that I actually really do want to talk about, so we'll hop into that in just a moment. But I really want to mention how piss poor this game is. Granted, this is probably one of the oldest fan games to come out of this community, so you can give it a little bit of leeway there, but I just can't get over how there are like 15 characters in this game, yet somehow only 4 mechanics. That's just insane to me. Really gives off some FNAF 2 syndrome, which like, yuck. I hate that shit. Anyways, let's jump into a much better game, The Last Psy 2. The Last Psy 2 opens to yet another 8-bit cutscene. We get to see Valentina being put into the suit again, picking up right where we left off. Grandma casts a fucking spell that does a body swap using her own soul, which is just insane. Didn't know Grandma knew the dark arts like that. We then see Coco Bite, yes, the animatronic, talk to Cristobal, who I'm pretty sure is Valentina's cousin. It never says that this is Cristobal, but I literally have no idea who else this could possibly be. And I'm pretty confident that it is indeed Cristobal. Anyways, Coco Bite says he'll let us go so that this is on our back. That's literally what he says word for word. I think what this is supposed to mean is that the vision of Valentina dying will forever be looming over our shoulders. Like we'll hold the weight on our shoulders. I'm guessing that's what that means. I'm not totally sure. Again, originally these games are in Spanish, but he says that next time there will be no witnesses. We then get another cutscene talking about some functionality test. We click on the snow dick a few times and then see the armor, and then this happens? The screen turns red? I don't really know why, but that's what happens, so sure. That's cool, I guess. And with that, we're thrown into this game's version of the phone calls, which thankfully are actually something this time and not just boring dick. During this section, we're put into an old haunted building. We get a call from a girl named Francesca, and she asks us if we have everything ready to get going. She gives us the rundown on where we are and what we need to do each night. Who cares? The name of the place we're at is a theater called Eternos Recuerdos. While on the phone with Fran, we're not able to respond to her for some reason. However, we have a camera in our clothes, which I'm assuming is just like a body cam or something, as this was another line a bit lost in translation, and that we should flicker our light for our responses to what she's saying. We have 5 things with us every single night. Our earphones to listen to Fran, our flashlight, which you may notice in this game calls a lantern. This affects puppets and animatronics. We get a screwdriver for some fucking reason. I really don't know why. A defense device, which I will just be calling the DD. We use this to hack into different systems, whatever that means. And of course, it needs electricity to function. And finally, we have a lighter in case the flashlight isn't enough light. Sure. As we walk through the doors, we enter a U-shaped hallway of the theater. There are 3 paths that we can take. However, on night 1, we only need to go right. Before we get to the office, we have to go upstairs to reach the room every night. We can run up the stairs. However, there are puppets close to us that could attack us if we run. But if we just take longer and walk up the stairs instead, they won't ever attack. So just take your fucking time and walk to avoid the problem. They always say the best way to block an attack is not have to block it in the first place. And that applies here too. Once we get to the office, we're told our goal for the night. But before we talk about that, let's go over all of the tools at our disposal. To start, there are 4 directions we can look. Directly in front of us is our computer, to our right is a window, to our left is the door, and behind us is a bookshelf. We of course have a camera system. However, we need to flash activate them to see the rooms. This will be a lot more important later, so I'll talk more about it then. In this game, there are also a very small amount of cameras, which I'm very grateful for since the last game almost gave me a heart attack with how much it had. Once again, we have infinite power, so we don't have to worry about that either. Our DD, or defense device, is our main source of defense, as the name would suggest. It has its own tab, kind of like the mask from FNAF 2. However, you cannot use it at the same time as your cameras. This thing is a little confusing to use and is really a pain in the ass. We have to use it to hack the PC password and get into the PC for the tasks we have to complete. When an animatronic gets near, a notification will show up on the DD. Pull the DD up and it will give you exact instructions on where to point your flashlight. You don't need the device to be selected on a specific character for this to work. It has all the animatronics and Huggins the clock for some reason, even though I never encountered him during the night sections, which would make me think he's a rare encounter or something like that. And our DD has infinite power, so that's really nice to not have to constantly worry about that. The next tool is our flashlight, which of course we use to deal with the animatronics. There's no power source to it, and this time it doesn't only light up for a fraction of a second and is actually a normal flashlight for the love of fuck. It works in tandem with the DD like I've already mentioned, as the DD will tell you a random part of the animatronic's face you have to shine the flashlight at. It's going to swap between facial features multiple times, so just make sure you're really ready to pay attention. Every animatronic has a different location and a different amount of times you need to flash them. So that means it's time for us to start talking about the threats that this night introduces. The first is Pandy. You remember him, right? Yeah, you remember him. He's cool. He'll make his way to your door. Once he sprints in front of you, you have to flash him 3 different times in 3 different places to make him go away. Again, the DD will tell you which places to do this in, and since it's random each time, I can't really tell you. This is super easy, but of course, it's only night 1, so that's to be expected. The next threat introduced on this night is Cocoa Bite. He's a lot slower moving than Pandy is, but overall he's the same, except he goes to your window. So this whole night will pretty much just be a Five Nights at Candy simulator where you look left, look right, and respond when you need to. Now, all of that was pretty boring, so let's move on to the tasks that we have to complete during this night. Of course, we need to hack into our wicked bitch grandma's PC and upload her files onto our DD. Every night requires a different type of files, and as you can see, there are a fuck ton of files that we have to upload each night. On night 1, we need to steal 90 megabytes of audio files. They're not all in one spot, and you'll actually have to dig through her files to be able to find them, which I actually think is pretty cool. That doesn't sound like a lot, but Grandma's internet is doo-doo ass, so this is gonna take a while. Something really interesting about this game is that if you complete the tasks before the night ends, then the night will end early, which is really nice, and I like a lot. There's no post-night minigame, so we can just jump right into night 2, which does have us go on a side quest before going to the office. Once we get to the hall, Fran has us go down the left hall to investigate. We're greeted by a locked door. On the right, a doll and a door. We're told we have to find a key. All we have to do is knock on the locked door, look at the doll, pick up the key that the doll has for some fucking reason. This is like some Ao Oni shit, and enter the room before the doll can straight tickle my shit. Entering the room, we're told to turn our light on and exorcise spirits inhabiting different objects. Really getting into the paranormal stuff in this fan game, and I'm all for it. We have to exorcise 8 groups of objects, and at the top of the screen, we'll see which object has progress, and the progress doesn't increase if we aren't holding our light on them, which is how we exorcise them. Of course, one of these little side quests wouldn't be complete without a threat we have to deal with at the same time. In this This time we have to deal with Barney. Barney will randomly show up on either the far left or far right sides of the room. All we have to do is flash him and he'll go away. Simple shit, really, but after that, we can go to the office. The file choice we have to download tonight is text files. You do this the same way you did it the last night. We have 2 new threats introduced on this night, and one of them is already recurring from approximately 37 seconds ago. So let's start by talking about Barney. Barney is just an eye slut. Awesome. We love those in our FNAF games, don't we? Barney is in camera 5, and he will make his way through several phases before attempting to spit inside of you. Literally, all you have to do is stare at him with the flash on, and this will make him go away. Not very hard at all, and you really won't have to do it that often during this night. Plus, you'll get a warning at the bottom of the screen when he's attacking anyways, so it's super easy. The other character introduced on this night is Jimmy. Quite literally the first normal name in this entire series. Jimmy is the character that sits behind you. Throughout the night, he will slowly wind himself up behind you. He'll try to move around a lot in an attempt to kill you, but he also toys with you a little bit. You will have to check behind you very often, and if he ever moves from behind you, he will either go to your left or your right. Figure out which side he went to and flash your light on him, and he'll go back to being behind you, and the cycle will continue. But that's really all we have to talk about, and at this stage in the game, you won't really need a strategy since it's really easy, and I honestly think that finding the files you need to find is a lot more difficult than actually dealing with the threats. All right, night 3, the moment I knew this series needed to be covered in a white video, since this night really shows off how this is not going to be your normal FNAF fan game. It's so much more. During this night, by the time you get to the theater, there's already an animatronic activated and waiting for you. Going into the hallways, we see Cocoa Bite waiting for us, so we run to the auditorium. Once we load into the auditorium, the game turns into a fucking first-person free roam game. What the fuck? This is so cool. I was honestly not expecting this at all, and this section of the game is honestly one of my favorites. In this auditorium with us is Pandy, who will randomly roam around. Our goal is to scan Pandy with our DD for a reason I'm not totally sure on, but of course, we can't let Pandy see us. We will have to follow him around the room, hiding behind chairs so that we're not spotted. This section is in no way difficult, but I do think it's super fucking cool and something that more fan games need. We need sections in games where interesting shit like this happens. It makes the whole process feel so much more enjoyable. I actually have no idea why we need to get data from him, and this honestly just raises a lot more questions. After leaving the auditorium, you get the option to either leave the building or go to the office. Spoiler alert, if you choose to leave, Cocoa Bite will just pack your shit up because he's waiting for you by the entrance. So our only real option is to go into the office and start the night section. The file type on this night we have to upload is image files, and I'm really hoping we don't find Grandma's goon folders while searching. All right, on this night we have 2 new threats introduced, and one of the previous threats gets an upgrade that makes him a lot more aids. So let's start with him. This character in question is our favorite fucker, Barney. He can now attack any camera with a visual cue of his fake form. When this happens, you must find him on the cameras. Fucking just shoot me in my fucking head. I can't remember the last time I didn't have to say that in a white video. Please kill me. Anyways, once you find him there will be 6 letters circling him. This part is very reminiscent of Nico from the first game. Take a look at these letters around Barney. I want you to take a guess what it is we have to spell with these letters. Go ahead, take a look. I'll give you some time. Let's look together. I'm not fucking seeing it. I'm not fucking seeing it. All right, that's enough time. Did you make your guess? Well, I bet you got it wrong because you have to spell no real and he'll finally fuck off. Why do you have to spell no real? And why does this work? I have no idea. Don't get me wrong, I love the new mechanic, but I would also love it if it made sense too. Anyways, the next threat introduced on this night is Barry. Barry attacks your door and he's way more difficult than Pandy and Cocoa Bite are. He only has 3 places to flash him. However, he moves like a fucking crack addict in Florida whenever you flash him, making you have to play aim trainer like when you're in school trying to copy what the teacher wrote on the board, but they're low-key standing in front of it. The whole flashing process with Barry also takes a fuck of a lot longer than both Pandy and Cocoa Bite. So say your prayers, little boy, because if you don't got aim, I hate to break it to you, but you're totally fucked. The final threat introduced on this night is Bait and Clop. Foul and disgusting name, by the way. He's pretty much the same as Barry, except he attacks your window instead of your door. And holy fucking shit, if you thought Barry spazzed out when you flashed him, you are not ready for Bait and Clop. Just look at this little fucking sped. He's going insane. I wish you the best of luck if you have bad hand-eye coordination, because this This is fucking brutal. Oh my god. All right, now it's time for us to talk about night 4. Tonight, we have to go to the left hallway and investigate because we make terrible decisions instead of leaving. Do you remember the other door on the right side of the hall from last night? Yeah. That's where we're going. You'll have to deal with a little doll before entering the room. All you have to do is hold your light on him, and that's it. Then we can enter the room and the real fun can begin. Once you enter the room, we get greeted to just a bunch of random shit. We can see a Bonnie mask, statues, cum socks, and for some reason, even the rat from Five Nights at Candy's 3 is here, which is pretty interesting. Anywho, of course, there's a threat, and that threat is Jimmy, who I am not excited to see at all. So this part is really fucking confusing, I can't lie, but I do think it's pretty cool. Basically, you'll have to hold your light on Jimmy to keep his ass on the floor. He will jump up and move around the room like Vinny from Five Nights at Candy's 3, so you'll have to be following him around quickly. Once he drops to the floor, another doll will appear, and Fran tells us we have to burn her. This is the real reason we have that lighter. As we burn her, random words will start to appear and slide across the screen. You'll then have to hold the lighter on her and make sure your mouse doesn't touch any of the words, or else the doll will crawl up inside of you like that gerbil you didn't tell anybody about. You fucking disgusting freak. You'll have to repeat this process until you kill the doll, and then we take her with us for something else later. No, it's not sexual. Stop thinking like that. I'll get into why we take the doll with us in a little bit. Let's jump into the night section now. The file type we have to collect this time is video files. Now I'm really hoping we don't find Grandma's goon folder. This night doesn't introduce new threats, but it does upgrade the 3 threats we talked about last night. Barney now will not appear in camera 5 anymore, instead opting to just be an asshole and spam his spelling lesson attack a lot more, which really just makes my penis invert up inside of my body. Barry and Batenclop get the same upgrade on this night, but it really just makes them completely terrible. They were already pretty bad from how much they moved around, but on this night they can actually move the bookshelf behind you and fucking blow your guts up from the back whenever they feel like it. So now you've got a lot more shit you constantly have to check on, which just makes this night take a whole lot longer to beat. This night is where you'll actually start to need a strategy, since this is where the difficulty really starts to become apparent. Every 2 to 3 files you upload, you should turn around to check on Jimmy. After that, deal with any other immediate threat like Barry or Cocoa Bite. If Barney ever attacks, always deal with him first, since he will be your biggest issue by far. And the other animatronics will give you enough time to deal with him, thankfully. Whenever you deal with any threat, check on Jimmy, then go back to the files. This makes the night take a pretty long time, but it's by far the safest way to play. Now, it's at this point where this game gets really interesting. It consists of 2 different endings, and of course, I'll be going over both, covering the bad ending first. If you get all of the files from nights 1 through 4, instead of loading to the entrance, now you'll be greeted with a skull. He greets you with a somber, "Yo, here we are." That's how I imagine he sounded. Anyways. He states that you have every single piece in your hands and asks if we're smart enough to solve the small puzzle. I personally am retarded and have no idea what he's talking about. But if you say no or say yes and get the puzzle wrong, then you'll get to proceed to the bad ending. And he'll tell us that it's sad that our fate was decided, which really doesn't give me a good feeling at all. Loading into the entrance, we're told to go to the auditorium to investigate. Upon arriving, we see Huggins in the middle of the aisle. Literally just go left or right and he won't kill you. No problem. Making our way to the stage, we see an animatronic we don't know the name of, but it appears to be aggravated by our presence. We ignore it and leave for the office, only to find out that that very animatronic is following us. Getting inside of the office, the night begins, and at exactly 15 seconds, we're greeted to our DD bugging the fuck out and the computer being turned into a console, as the name on our DD changes to Rover. And that's a perfect segue into the only threat present on this night, Rover Lee. Rover Lee is obviously a boss fight character, with mechanics that were shown to us way back at the beginning of the game. Let's go over the computer first, since that will be the main way we deal with Rover. The computer has the text Rover Lee Lockdown Core. If you type help, you'll see 3 commands. CLS will clear the text on the screen, out will expel the souls for 15 seconds, I'll go over what that means in just a minute, and move X will move Rover towards a camera, so you can just replace the X with the name of the camera. When you use the out command, it takes between 25 and 35 seconds at random until the souls get expelled. Again, I'll get back to that in a second. The computer has a random chance to have an error, because RNG needs to be in every FNAF game for it to be interesting. The error will slow any expulsion, but will will not cancel out the already expelled souls. All you have to do is click and hold a bar at the bottom of the monitor and you'll be chilling to get rid of it. Oh yeah, and you can only use the move command if Rover has all of the souls expelled. Now let's talk about Rover Lee, the actual boss. He has 5 different attacks that he can use, and I'm not gonna lie, some of them require the best hand-eye coordination I've ever seen in my life. His first attack is just him being an eye slut for a majority of the night. You have to watch him on camera 1A to stall him, but if he moves, he will never move back unless you specifically use the move command. His second attack, he'll have him reach your office, and if he does, you'll have to do a standoff against him. You will get a prompt saying that Rover is near your door. You have to look at the door with your DD up and then play some Five Nights at Candy's 3 type shit, tracking his face like this is aim labs. He'll jump from one side of your office to another, to behind the computer, to in your urethra, a whole bunch of fun shit. You need to have insane reflexes because you cannot afford to mess up for even a second. Honestly, it's best to just make sure he never reaches your office by using the move commands and stalling him, because this attack can quite literally last for the entire night. It's fucking brutal. Attacks 3 and 4 are pretty much the same, so I'll talk about them at the same time. Rover is possessed by 2 different souls, and each of them can attack you. The blue soul can only attack your door, and the orange soul can only attack your window. This is where your DD really comes into play. You have to tune the color frequency of your DD to match the color of the soul that is attacking you. That doesn't make any fucking sense, but it pleases the demons, so please the demons I will do to make them hop up off me. His 5th and final attack has both of the souls attack you from behind. When this happens, you have to turn around and face a Rover-like ghost. You need to look him in the eyes like your girlfriend asks you to do, but you have autism, so it makes it really hard, and use the DD to match the color frequency 3 times instead of just 1. Sometimes the color can change, and sometimes it'll stay the same, which is obviously the option we'd want because that's easier. The strategy for this night is generally easy, but acting like this night doesn't require more skill than most of the other Final Nights I've talked about on this channel would be an understatement. The moment the night starts, you'll want to immediately type out. Once this happens, stare at Rover until you need to deal with the souls or fix the console. Rinse and repeat until the end of the night. And honestly, if Rover ever gets into your office, just restart. Because I promise you, you're not going to survive that fight once he's in. You just won't. If you can survive all the way until 6 a.m., Rover Lee will enter your office and fucking kill you. Spotting that you've been controlling them from the computer, they are rightfully pissed the fuck off. A cutscene plays of Rover confronting Grandma, calling her daughter, saying that she lied to them, and complains a bunch like a woman. Then Rover fucking evaporates Cocoa Bite and Pandy and then RKOs the shit out of Grandma. Actually a batshit crazy insane ending that I personally love. But we can't forget that all of that was just the bad ending. We still have the good ending to talk about. Before we start talking about the good ending, we need to talk about the files we've been collecting throughout the game. I'll go over them in detail a bit later, but that's going to take a really long fucking time. So instead, I'll just give you the quick rundown summary now. Omegna, the grandma, had a sister named Sani. Their mom died and their dad became an alcoholic. They ran away after getting beat, only to be brought in by an old lady. Sani steals some shit and Omegna slaps her for doing so. Sani runs away and is never seen again. It was never Omegna that was doing all the shit we've been going through. Apparently, it was Sani. Again, that's a very, very rough outline of these files. I'll do a deep dive in a few minutes. Don't you worry your pretty little head off. Yeah, guys, my favorite part about eating a Reese's cup is peeling the panties off. You're gonna leave that in, aren't you, editor? Asshole. Anyways, now we can talk about the good ending. Back to the skull, the puzzle he asks is, what trick did you fall for? There will then be letters for you to spell with, and you need to spell the word twins. These twins, I'm imagining, is in reference to the sisters. He then says that everybody fell for that, and then asks their names, which you will then need to input Omegna and Sani. He will then state that there is something more important than the names. He asks us which one is the which, and you need to answer Sani. Bars, by the way, right there. Sani was the one behind it all along. She fooled everyone and made Omegna go to prison for a crime she never committed. She made you think our family betrayed us. The skull then asks, who of them are in jail? Which of course we know is Omegna. So that's what you have to answer. Yes, by the way, this section is incredibly convoluted. I'm aware, just stay with me for a little bit longer. Finally, the skull says we know what we have to do and wishes us good luck. As we load into the entrance, we're told that we talked about a hidden room inside of the building. Fran is worried a bit, but trusts us and helps us by luring whatever is inside out. We're told to hide in the utility closet from way back in night 2. Entering the room, we're met with Barney. He looks very beaten up and broken, which is why he wasn't attacking on night 4 in camera 5. That makes sense now, and I honestly think it's a really small but cool reveal. He says the witch is who hurt him, the same person who took him back to life, giving him a new life. He says that the state he is in is the cost of the ones who made her angry. And I'm gonna be so honest, I have no idea what the fuck that means. I'm nowhere near smart enough to comprehend it, so hopefully you guys can. He says that nobody here will let us leave, not even the witch. He says to give up and turn ourselves in, and how he doesn't regret anything he did. He just wanted to see the kids smile. Now I really have no idea why the fuck he added in that last line. Very fucking weird, and I'm just gonna choose to move past it. We leave and are told by Fran that the bookshelf is open and it's clear to go in. Going through it, we find another staircase that leads to the home, the name of the place the animatronics go when they aren't active. Upon arrival, we notice that we have to unscrew a case to acquire a key. However, this is of course not going to be as easy as it sounds. During this section, we have two of the most fucking aggressive characters I've ever seen in my entire life. It is insane. But before we talk about them, let's go into the layout of this section. Looking to your left, you'll notice the doll you picked up from night 4. Her name is Jenny, and she is how you deal with both of these threats. But holy fucking shit, the hitbox on this goddamn doll head is fucking ass. So fucking tiny for no goddamn reason, fuck! You must drag Jenny's head to make her look at either of the two hallways to the room we're in. The left hall has Bait and Clop, and the right hall has Barry. Now, when I tell you guys that these two are aggressive, I mean it. Holy shit, the goal of this night is to just slowly unscrew 4 screws, but it takes so fucking long because these two will quite literally be attacking you every 2 seconds. And that's not an exaggeration. Just look at the screen right now and tell me this doesn't look fucking insane. Every time you successfully turn Jenny's head towards them and flash them to make them go away, they seriously have a chance to show up again immediately afterwards, making this section take fucking minutes and minutes longer than it would ever need to. And one of the best parts is that they can both attack you at the exact same time. That's just fucking perfection. I hate it here. Fuck! This means you literally have a chance, and a pretty likely chance at that, to encounter them 4 times in a row. You are going to make so little progress unscrewing these screws, it's ridiculous. However, once you manage to unscrew everything and grab the key we need, we go back upstairs and start the night. During hours 0 through 3 of the 5th night is all well and good, just the normal characters like we're used to. Except with one small tweak that they turned on the fucking gas this night because holy shit, it's like seriously quadrupled the difficulty of night 4. It is fucking insanely hard. All of that is well and good, but once you hit 3 a.m., Rover Lee activates and it's pretty much just night 5 from the bad ending. So just use the same strategy we used then and we'll be golden. No problem at all. Just for the love of fuck, don't let him get in your office because that minigame is more impossible than Shadow, Rat, and Cat all challenges, I swear to God. Once you reach 6 a.m., Fran tells us she's sorry and that everything is ready for us. She also mentions to check the safe that's been in our office this entire game. Inside, we see the doll Valentina is possessing, which I actually think is really fucking cool. This part honestly reminds me a lot of the ending of Saw 2, which, quick little spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen the Saw movies and really want to. It reminds me of the part at the end of Saw 2 where they reveal that the main character's kid has been stuck inside of a safe in the room they were in the entire time. It's so fucking cool, I love it. We grab Valentina and burn the building down as we leave. We then see a cutscene with Sanny. She's obviously pissed as fuck and is about to start her villain arc. She says she won't let herself be caught and that nobody is going to be happy, which just screams sequel right in my little gamer ears. But that is all the good ending has to offer. And now, sadly for me, I have to fulfill a promise I made a few minutes ago and talk about the files we collected, which is really just going into the extras and doing a fuck ton of reading. So let's just get all that bullshit over with. Let's start with the audio files. They consist of our great-grandfather's music, the sound of the curse Sanny uses, and Camillo's ghost, which is pretty fucked up. You have the ability to recreate the memories from these files, and doing so gives you an 8-bit minigame to play around in. The audio memory has us play as Omegna as a child as we see her father wallow in despair. She then leaves to go to her room and sleep, giving her dad some space. By the way, all of these minigames are going to piece together that summary I gave you before the good ending, so if it sounds like I'm repeating myself, it's pretty much because I am. The text files are a bunch of newspapers with a fuck ton of words. Like, oh my god, so many goddamn words. I really don't want to read them all, but fuck me, I'm gonna do it for the video. I'll have the editor put Subway Surfers or some shit on the screen. And for those of you that don't care about what these newspapers say, you can skip to the time on your screen right here to just learn about the minigame we'll be talking about directly after. Newspaper 1. Mysterious serial thefts of animatronic dolls continue to baffle the city. Friday, June 12th, 2015. All the missing animatronics belonged to large restaurant chains or family-run establishments with locations in the region. Last Thursday, June 11th, a fourth animatronic figure was reported missing in the city, this time from the Animagic's Burger Place, restaurant located on the outskirts of Santiago. The figure in question is Barry, a shark that performs magic tricks for the audience, and a companion to another of the missing animatronics. The establishment has already been closed for about a month due to the disappearance of another of its figures and the restaurant's mascot, Coco Bite. The security cameras had been damaged since the previous incident, so no footage was found of how the figure disappeared. With this incident, the total number of disappearances in just 2 months has reached 4. Previous disappearances included Pandy, whose original Chinese name is Tao, Batenclop, the animatronic from Batenclop's Terror House, and the aforementioned Coco Bite from Animagic Burger Place. The prosecutor's office claims to have no idea who is responsible for these thefts, nor their motive. We don't know what whoever is stealing these animatronics might want. The investigation hasn't yielded anything yet, stated PDI officer Diego Alarcon. In our opinion, the most likely scenario is that these thieves want to sell the pieces, but we can't confirm anything. There are more valuable items inside, so it's surprising they didn't take them. The officer also reported that the investigation is ongoing and that they will do everything possible to get to the bottom of this. On the other hand, the restaurant CEO stated that it will have to remain closed until the robot is recovered. We are still considering ordering a replacement from the manufacturer, but since this is the second theft we've experienced, we fear they'll come back for a third. Perhaps the best course of action is to remain closed for a while longer, he declared. Newspaper 2. Missing cousins found in old antique shop belonging to their grandmother, January 15th, 2012. 2 of the victims were found with injuries, while the youngest was found dead. Yesterday morning, Sunday, January 14th, the body of a young man identified as Camilo Torres was finally found. He had disappeared early Thursday morning from the shop known as Omegna Antiques, owned by his grandmother. His 2 other grandchildren were also found with him. Valentina Torres, Camilo's sister, who is currently in a coma at the Central Hospital, and Cristobal Valdebenito, a first corporal of the Carabineros, Chilean police force, who had several minor injuries. As soon as they were found, the survivors were taken to the hospital. Valdebenito has not yet agreed to comment on what happened there, stating that he first needs to speak with his superiors about the matter. Regarding Valentina Torres' condition, the attending physician, Joaquin Soto, stated that the reasons for her unconsciousness are still unknown. Tests indicate that there is brain activity. Very low, but it is there. However, the young woman has no head injuries that could explain her unconsciousness. It's a very strange case, but we are continuing to examine her, the doctor stated. Regarding Camilo Torres, according to the investigative police, PDI, the cause of death was asphyxiation by strangulation. The minor's neck showed very noticeable marks. Both his neck and part of his spine, as well as his trachea, are, in the words of prosecutor Leonardo Altamirano, destroyed. Asphyxiation of that level is very difficult to achieve. An ordinary human could not do it, he stated. In fact, it almost looks like as if his neck had been crushed by heavy metal machinery, but this doesn't quite fit considering the finger-like marks left on his neck. The PDI also stated that the investigation is not over yet, and that, although with the current leads it is difficult to reach a conclusion, they will do everything possible to get to the bottom of this and bring justice to the guilty parties. Newspaper 3. Security footage from Omegna Antiques shows the owner attacking her granddaughter, January 16th, 2012. During the investigation into the murder of the 20-year-old at the Omegna Antiques shop, police found a recording of one of the owner's computers. The recording shows the owner ordering a group of animatronic robots to kill Valentina Torres, her own granddaughter. The video from the shop's security camera network shows a young woman and her grandmother, Mrs. Omegna, the latter apparently accompanied by animatronic robots from various well-known entertainment chains, which she kept in her shop. In the recordings, she can be heard ordering the robots to get rid of her, at which point the machines step forward and begin attacking the young woman. We don't know how she could have made them work or how she could have made them obey her, stated Leonardo Altamirano, the prosecutor in charge of the case. We believe the video may be some kind of fabrication, but all of the evidence seems to indicate that this is not the case. According to the several owners of the entertainment chains who once owned those robots, those models had been discontinued for almost 2 decades and had mostly been sold at auctions long ago, which is how they are assumed to have eventually ended up in Omegna's store. For this part, Corporal Cristobal Valdebenito, one of the victims of the cousin of Valentina and her deceased brother, Camilo, stated that he had noticed his grandmother acting strangely in recent weeks, and he also identified her as the kidnapper during the days he was missing. It was a dark, cold, and old room. I could see her there. She didn't say anything significant. She was the one who had me trapped. This morning, the woman was arrested by the Carabineros, Chilean police, and will remain in custody while her connection to the incident is investigated. Holy fuck, that was a lot. But let's move on to the minigame. In this minigame, Omegna checks on her dad in the living room only to see that he's passed out drunk as fuck on the couch. She leaves to go reminisce in the kitchen, she checks the fridge only to see there's no food inside, and she wonders when Sandy will come home from her job. The image files consists of some bottles, a picture of Barney, and whatever the fuck this shit is right here. I literally have no idea what else this could be. My only guess is that the potion grants life, maybe, judging from the conversation we had with Barney, and then the Barney picture is just Barney being destroyed in the closet or getting a new life. I have no idea. And then the question mark image, bro, I'm scratching my head and my balls. You guys tell me what the fuck this is supposed to mean, bro. I've got no idea. The memory for the images has Omegna's dad drunk and yelling at her. He beats the shit out of her while she begs him to stop. He yells at her and tries to drink more, only to notice the bottle's empty. He shatters the bottle on the wall and tells Omegna that he's going to go get more. He tells them that when he gets back, he doesn't want to see either of them and that they need to go to bed now. Sandy shows up to comfort Omegna. Omegna confronts her, saying that they will not be hurt by him again. And then they run away from home together. This is probably one of the more disturbing cutscenes from this game, for obvious reasons. As far as the videos go, they're all just Pandy, Batenclop, and Cocoa Bite jittering in their new bodies. But this memory is a hell of a lot longer. Omegna and Sandy are arguing about Sandy stealing money. Sandy is thinking like a survivalist, but Omegna is thinking like a pacifist, explaining that she could just work. Sandy states that no one saw her and that she was poorer than a rat. Omegna shoots back that she shouldn't talk about herself like that and that she should be grateful that she took them in. Sandy states that the money was not entirely for herself, saying that she will buy things to help her. Omegna states that she wouldn't even accept the money, yet she should give back what she has left. Sandy states that she will not and will put the money to good use. Omegna snaps, stating that this is the last straw. She mentions that Sandy comes home late, skips school, and doesn't follow instructions. Sandy turns away, but Omegna puts her hands on her to make Sandy look at her again. Sandy states to get her hands off of her, but Omegna demands Sandy to follow her orders. Sandy snaps back, stating that Omegna isn't her mom. Omegna slaps Sandy, she apologizes, but Sandy runs away, stating that she hates Omegna and to stop bothering her. They have never seen each other again since that day. So there you go! I told you I'd cover it in more detail. Are you proud of me? Please say yes, because I've been writing the script for no joke the last 6 hours. I'm fucking dying over here. 2 more things before we wrap up. The first is this weird minigame called Pandy POV. It's just some point and click bullshit and seriously provides no lore to the story whatsoever, just a time waster. And the final thing is what happens after you beat 720 mode, which I obviously didn't fucking do because I'm not a maniac. After you complete it, you get this short cutscene. Yes, it's in Spanish. I don't give a fuck. Hop off my dick and read the subtitles.
Sigues teniendo pesadillas, ¿eh? Tranquilo. Pasaste por mucho estrés durante esas noches. Es normal, y lo sabes. Poco a poco estas se irán. Todo está bien ahora.
So there we go, a teaser for yet another game to come. And it looks like there's gonna be a character with a cane. So maybe it'll be me, who fucking knows. But as far as I'm aware, that's all the last Psy has to offer. Overall, I think this game has one of the most interesting and unique stories I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game before. Sure, I do think the first game is complete ass, but the second game really makes up for it. It looks fucking amazing, the gameplay is actually interesting, albeit incredibly difficult at times, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who wants a fun challenge.
One of my favorite parts about making videos on this channel is picking out the games. I'll spend days playing random FNAF games, and most of them don't really catch my attention like some do. Some videos I've made on this channel were because of pure nostalgia, while others were made because I played something that I found amazing, and today is no different. The game I will be talking about today is called A Bite at Freddy's. I began playing this game like I would any other, and if I'm being totally honest, this might be be my new favorite FNAF game I've ever played. I feel this game blows even Joy of Creation story mode out of the water. My god, it's so good. As much as I want to dive into this game right now, I have a quick announcement to talk about first. If you don't care about it and just want to get to the review, you can skip to the time you see on screen here. Recently, YouTube has started age restricting my videos because of my vulgar language. I think that's stupid, but whatever. So you'll notice that in this video and all future videos, all cuss words and other inappropriate words will be censored. This is not something I'm happy about. I don't like that I have to do this in order for videos to be pushed out, but it's what I have to do. So to compensate, I've made the decision to start a Patreon. Again, another thing I'm not very happy with, but it's what I'm doing. By joining the Patreon, depending on the tier you may choose, you'll get access to my content early, with no ads, and uncensored. And if you choose the highest tier, Dexter Gold, you'll get your name mentioned at the end of videos. Blah, 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 whatever Patreon stuff. There is absolutely no pressure whatsoever to join the Patreon. I personally don't care if it sits on 0 patrons until the end of time. This is just being made in case anybody wants to listen to these stupid videos uncensored and support me on the side as well. Again, no pressure at all. Don't worry about it. The link is in the description. With that being out of the way, let's get to the video. A Bite at Freddy's begins with a cutscene reminiscent of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, with us in the perspective of Freddy. We look around as 2 people talk about the new animatronics. We can look side to side and see Chica and Bonnie. And this is where I already want to pause and say how f***ing cool these characters look. This game went totally against what every other FNAF game does when it comes to designs. Rather than having the characters just look creepy and dingy in some stanky pizzeria, these characters are based off of Westernism, with each character having a big goofy cowboy hat. I love the change of pace. I also really like how the characters have really long faces. I think it's super unique in comparison to what a lot of other FNAF games create. But enough gawking, let's get into the gameplay. On night 1, which is really called Course 1, which I'm just realizing as I'm typing this, I should probably explain, so I'll quickly do that. Rather than having multiple nights, A Bite at Freddy's just has multiple courses that I could only assume means a meal course, since in this game, instead of having to survive until a certain time, you have to survive long enough to see 3 meals served. Let me explain a bit more, since I know that still doesn't make any sense. Unlike most FNAF games where you're totally alone, in A Bite at Freddy's, your manager is also working in the building with you. His job is to make all of the food, and your job is to confirm its delivery. You might be asking, what the f does delivery mean? And I'll explain it to you, even though you could just open a dictionary. Throughout the course of each course, odd sentence, but whatever, your manager will get a meal ready. Each meal has 3 stages they go through. Preparing, where the meal is being prepared in the kitchen, if you couldn't have guessed. Sending, where the meal is put on a conveyor belt and transported to different locations in the building. And delivered, where the meal has made it to a designated location and awaits confirmation. The next meal will not start being prepared until the last meal has been confirmed. There are 3 meals that need to be confirmed each night. The first meal will be delivered to Party Room A, the second to Party Room B, and the third straight to your office where you can collect it and eat it like a little piglet. To confirm an order, you have to go to the location where it was delivered, whether that be the camera or your office, and just click confirm. Then the next meal will begin to be prepared. Once you confirm the order in your office, you will complete the course. Course 1 introduces 2 characters, Talk Show Bonnie and Talk Show Chica. Talk Show Bonnie will move around the restaurant and will take one of 2 paths. Path A, he will make his way to the entrance of our office. Once he enters, you will be able to see him in one of 3 locations in your office. You'll have to shut off the lights in your office until you see him leave, where you'll then be free to turn your lights back on. I think this mechanic alone is pretty boring, but it's made much more interesting because Bonnie will attempt to hide from you in different locations. It's never hard to spot him, but if you're ever super focused on something else, which you definitely will be, it can be pretty easy to miss him. It's incredibly simple, but just makes the game that much more interesting. Path B that Bonnie can take leads him to the kitchen, which brings up a small point I want to mention. If you look at the kitchen camera, you'll actually be able to see your manager making the food, or you'll actually only be able to see his big goofy cowboy hat. I think it's pretty silly, and I also think it's a lot sillier that when Bonnie is in the kitchen, he chooses to completely ignore your manager. I guess the taste of my asshole is just so much more desirable. And of course, our manager pays no mind to the fact a murderous robot with no legs is right behind him. Which actually brings up another point I have with these characters. Similar to Five Nights at Chuck E. Cheese, the characters don't have any legs. Since they're meant to always be behind something, designing legs would never make any sense from a design standpoint. But because these animatronics have no legs, they just drag themselves around, which, even if it's technically not as threatening as a 7-foot-tall, totally mobile robot is, it's totally much more creepy. Anyways, Bonnie will enter the kitchen camera and attempt to crawl onto the conveyor belt. On each camera where a conveyor belt is present, you'll have access to a closed door button. When pressed, if you're terrible at context clues, I'll piece this together for you, the door to the conveyor belt will obviously close. This poses a problem with meals not being able to be sent. But I never once had a problem with that, so I don't care. Once you close the door, within 3 seconds, Bonnie will leave the kitchen camera and you'll be free to reopen the door. You might ask yourself, why would I not keep the doors closed the whole course and only open them to let meals through? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I really needed a segue into explaining another crucial mechanic: power. A Bite at Freddy's does power much differently than other FNAF games do. In this case, you want your power low all the time. Performing tasks will cause the power to increase. These include closing conveyor doors, stopping the conveyor, which I'll explain more in a second, and turning off the lights for Bonnie, which, by the way, doesn't make sense. Why would turning the lights off cause power to be used? I don't know. Don't ask. And a few other things that wouldn't make sense if I brought them up right now. If your power ever reaches 100%, it will overheat, and you'll have to wait for it to slowly decrease back down to 0% before you can use any of the devices that cause it to increase. So basically, if your generator hits 100%, you lose, because there's a very small chance where that happens and you still beat the course. Anyways, getting back to Bonnie. Let's say you don't close the conveyor door and Bonnie hops on the conveyor. What happens then? Well, in that case, Bonnie will ride the conveyor all the way up to your office. There will be a noticeable sound cue when he does, or any other animatronic is doing this. When you hear them approaching, you'll turn to the conveyor and pull the stop conveyor lever. This will, as the name suggests, stop the conveyor and temporarily shine a light down it, where you'll be able to see the lovely death robot staring back at you. Just like the doors, after about 3 seconds he'll leave and you can let go of the lever. So this brings up an interesting balancing idea. Let's say your power is pretty high and you see that Bonnie is about to jump on the conveyor. You're scared that if you use the door, your power will go up to 100%, and you obviously don't want that to happen. You actually have some options here. You can either risk it and close the door anyways, or you can choose to allow Bonnie to get on the conveyor and stop him at your office later when your power has gone down to a more comfortable level. Considering that, once they hop on the conveyor, it takes quite a bit of time before they reach your office. When no power users are being used, the power slowly decreases. That's something important I probably should have mentioned earlier. But another important thing to note about stopping them in your office is that stopping the conveyor makes your power increase significantly faster than if you were to have just closed the door. So it's really something you'll need to learn to feel out while you're playing in order to make the smartest choice. Now, let's talk about the other character this course adds, Talk Show Chica. Chica works somewhat similarly to Bonnie, where she'll wander around the building and eventually choose one of two paths. On path A, Chica will head to party room B and attempt to hop on the conveyor like Bonnie does on the kitchen camera. Just like Bonnie, you may close the conveyor door, and then in around 3 seconds, Chica will leave and you can open it again. Path B, on the other hand, is very interesting and is one of my favorite mechanics in this game just because of how goofy it is. Like Bonnie, Chica's other path will have her head straight to your office. However, where Bonnie will hide, Chica will sit behind your desk. Along with a notable sound cue you will hear, you will also be able to see her big goofy cowboy hat slowly rising up from behind your desk. When you see her there, you need to, no joke, grab a toy gun from off your desk like this is Moosey, aim for between Chica's eyes, and fire a fake projectile at her before she fires her fake projectile at you. If you win the standoff, Chica will exit your office. This has to be one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in a FNAF game, ever. I could talk all day about how much sense this doesn't make, but this entire game is super silly, so I'm not taking it super seriously here. I love this mechanic. I think it's unique and goofy. Should I call it goofy one more time? Have I put that in the script enough? Whatever. Let's move on. The second course of the game activates Talk Show Freddy, and with him comes a new camera and a new mechanic. This was super interesting to me. I've never before seen a FNAF game like this add a whole new camera to a night. This caught me off guard and I was very pleasantly surprised. Freddy, unsurprisingly, works similar to Bonnie and Chica. Again, he will wander around the building and choose one of two paths. I'm going to give you a quick spoiler alert. This pick a path system is the same for every character in the game, so I'm going to not bring it up for the remaining of the characters. Freddy's first possible path has him go to Party Room A and attempt to climb onto the conveyor. Just close the conveyor door, yada yada yada, you'll be fine. His other path, however, has him go to the new camera, which is Vent Camera. When you click on the vent camera, a few other lines will appear on the map, showing you which cameras have access to the vent, those being both of the party rooms and the hallway. I've actually never really talked about the hallway, but it will become more important later, so let me just quickly explain some small things about it now. The hallway in A Bite at Freddy's acts as a type of hub where you will be able to commonly see most of the animatronics. Multiple of the characters have a few different states on this camera, which can help you understand and be able to predict what their next moves will be. For example, Chica has a chance to appear on the hallway camera very far away. Looking at the layout of the building and where the camera is placed, you'll be able to tell that she is directly outside of your office door. So, if you can make time to catch a peek at that hallway cam, you'll be able to start a mental timer in your head for how long it will be until Chica enters your office. And because of this, you also know that she won't be attempting to hop on the conveyor in Party Room B. Anyways, back to Freddy and the vent. His second path also leads him to Party Room A, where instead of getting on the conveyor, you will see him climbing into the vent. After this happens, you will be able to hear a notable vent sound cue, alerting you to the fact he's up there and hotboxing your vent. When you hear Freddy in your vent, you must go to the vent camera and turn on the vent fan. This will cause a fan to drop down and block Freddy's path. He will then be forced to turn around, and after 3 seconds when he leaves, you can safely turn the vent fan back off. Turning on this fan works the same as a conveyor door, so it also increases your power. There is something really cool and really quirky and also a little bit skibbity about Freddy and this vent, however. In this event, Freddy has 3 notable states. I'm not exactly sure how the game decides which state Freddy will be in, but he has a state far from the camera, close to the camera, and the final, very important state where he's very close to the camera and looking down into your office at you. When Freddy is in this peeping Tom state, if you activate the vent fan, it will actually chop Freddy's f***ing head off and it will fall into your f***ing office. What does this do, you ask? Well, when I was playing, I assumed it was just a funny little gag. The only thing I noticed was that without his head, Freddy was a little harder to spot on the cameras since the characters' heads are the most noticeable part of their bodies. What I didn't notice, however, and only found out while doing some extra research for this video, was the fact that when Freddy's head is off, his aggression increases dramatically. So much so that he will move from his start location to the party room and to the vent in a matter of seconds. And when you get rid of him, you will only have a few seconds until he's back. You know, with how many times I've lost to Headless Freddy, you'd think I'd have picked up on this, but I never did. I guess I'm just a fucking moron. Course 3 adds the most frustrating character in this whole game, Foxy. Foxy will start on a different camera from the other animatronics talked about so far. This is pretty standard when it comes to Foxy. However, for some unknown reason, instead of being Western-based like the rest of the characters, for some reason, Foxy is a scientist. What? Why? I fail to understand the thought process here. But whatever, that's not really important. Let's just go over what this goober does. Foxy's first path leads him to the kitchen just like Bonnie, where he will attempt to hop on the conveyor. What the f ever, you guys get it and don't care. Why is he frustrating is all you want to know. Foxy's second path leads us to the backroom camera, a camera that, at this point, has served no real purpose. In this camera, Foxy will have 3 states, each one bringing him closer and closer to some hanging wires, with the third state having him about to bite the shit out of them and kill himself. When Foxy is in this final state, you must press a button on that camera that will reboot the cameras. This also acts as a shock and will stop Foxy and move him back to the hall or main room. As far as I noticed, restarting the camera doesn't cause your power to increase, but it does make the cameras unusable for a small period of time. If you choose to not stop Foxy, which I wouldn't recommend, it's borderline game over. While you don't lose straight away, your camera's power will start to run on your office's generator, and as a side effect of that, every time you open your cameras to use them, it will increase your power, something it hadn't been doing prior. So while you don't necessarily lose when Foxy does this, with how much checking the cameras is necessary to beat any of the courses, you're basically f***ed. But after beating this course, you're actually done. Unlike typical FNAF games where you have 5 nights, A Bite at Freddy's only has 3. I definitely think this is an interesting approach, and also certainly helps with the game not feeling too repetitive, which, by the way, this game is great at making itself feel fresh all the time, but I'll get to that more later. After successfully fulfilling all 3 of these courses, we sit down with our manager and have a nice meal. Only thing that's a little off is we can see a twisted, malformed, deformed, crippled version of Freddy crawling near the table. That's when we're booted back to the menu and we see we have the option to do one final course. The final course acts as this game's 6th night, and it adds a brand new character, Threadbare. Lore-wise, Threadbare was an old Freddy robot they used to use, switching him out for a new model after a kid bit his face off in 1987. Are you kidding me? The bite of 87 in this game was committed by a child on an animatronic. That's hilarious. This game is so non-serious. I love it so much. Anyways, what does Threadbare do? Well, as I'm sure you could expect, he acts similarly to Freddy. His first path has him go to Party Room B and try to hop on the conveyor, and his second path has him enter the vent through the hallway. The only difference you'll notice from Threadbare and the rest of the characters is that Threadbare actually has a third path he can take, that being going down to the back room where Foxy can go and immediately making you have to restart the cameras. He's not forgiving like Foxy is. Foxy has 3 stages, giving you ample warning to prepare yourself. When Threadbare enters your back room and reams you in the asshole while pulling your hair from behind, you need to immediately drop what you're doing and deal with his bullshit. But after beating this course, the game is over. Psych, fucking idiot, we still got custom courses to talk about. You might be thinking, why are you even talking about this? Custom nights are boring as f, and usually I would agree with you. But this game does something super awesome, and I really need to talk about it, both to pad for runtime and because it's just sick. Similar to Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Custom Night, there are multiple pre-built custom modes to play through, but unlike FNAF 2, each mode in A Bite at Freddy's adds a unique challenge on top of the custom AI. Let's start with just beating the custom course on a totally random AI number, not all 20, not all 0, and not using a pre-built challenge. Upon beating it, you will be rewarded a yellow slip, which is pretty standard in FNAF games. It starts to get interesting when you beat the custom course with every character's AI set to 0, in which case you will be given a roll of toilet paper. This is incredibly stupid, but I love it. It's so goofy that this was even thought of. It's the small things that matter in games sometimes, and this proves that point. Now, let's get to the challenges, starting with Basket Hunt. Basket Hunt has Freddy, Bonnie, and Threadbare active. Bonnie and Freddy having an AI value of 10, and Threadbare having an AI value of 5. The extra challenge of this course is that, after a meal has been prepped, the basket it's in will be sent to a totally random room. You'll have to search through the cameras like a Where's Waldo in order to find each basket that comes through. Not only is this a super cool addition that the creator 100% didn't need to add, our manager can also be seen with a bag over his head. Since he claimed we were so good at working, he could do it without looking. Because of this, it's probably why the meals get sent to the wrong location, because he can't see where he's going. And on top of that, after beating the course, the final meal that gets sent to your office has a boot instead of food, because again, the f***er can't see anything. I think this is such a cool little extra cherry on top. The level of detail is so great, and again, wasn't even necessary. I love everything about this game. I actually don't have any complaints up until this point. The next challenge is Haunted Roulette, arguably the weakest of the challenges. In this mode, the characters active are Freddy and Chica with an AI value of 10, and Bonnie and Foxy with an AI value of 5. In this challenge, you get a unique item called the Shocker. Throughout the night, key tools you use may become haunted, those tools being your toy gun, light button, vent fan, and conveyor lever. Throughout the course, while you're being attacked, you'll have to keep a close eye on these tools and use your shocker on them if you notice they're haunted. If you try to use a tool while it's haunted, the actual tool will jump scare you, which is just fucking, say it with me, goofy. On top of that, beating the night rewards you with a haunted meal basket that, when grabbing, will also jump scare you. What a treat. Coming in the opposite of hot, we have the next challenge called Cold Kitchen. This challenge consists of Freddy and Bonnie with an AI value of 10 and Chica and Threadbare with an AI value of 5. In this challenge, the heater in the restaurant broke, and to compensate, our manager is wearing earmuffs, which you can see on the kitchen camera. How cute. But this course's challenge is directly affected by the cold. Not only is it f***ing snowing in the building, Jesus Christ, but occasionally it'll get so cold that you won't be able to do shit. In order to stop this from happening, you have to occasionally go to the back room camera and reboot the cameras. This again releases an electric shock, which I guess heats up the building. Doesn't make much sense, but f*** you, it's what we're working with. Upon beating this course, you'll be given a nice little snowman. The next challenge, called Out of Service, contains Freddy and Foxy with an AI value of 5, and Chica and Bonnie with an AI value of 10. The special, super cool, kooky, and funny twist being the conveyor doors don't fucking work. If you recall earlier, I said you're able to allow animatronics through the conveyor and stop them at your office later, and doing this gives you a good opportunity to think and balance your power. Guess what, lips? That can't happen here. If an animatronic gets onto your conveyor, you're f***ed. Because on top of the doors not working, the lever in your office doesn't work either, so you won't be able to stop a god thing. This mode led me to develop the strategy of only checking the kitchen cam, party room cams, vent cam, and back room cam, since the rest aren't very important. Eventually, I started glancing at the hallway cam just to see where Chica was and if Threadbare was going to be climbing into the vent soon, but I didn't start doing that until a later night I'll talk about in a second. Anyways, beating Out of Service gets you finger puppets of Freddy and Bonnie. What about Chica and Foxy finger puppets? I hear you bitching about. Shut the f*** up, I'll get there in a second. The next challenge is Lunch Rush, which has all 5 animatronics at an AI value of 10. The extra challenge of this night is that you have to confirm 7 orders when every other night you've only had to confirm 3. And with every animatronic at 10, this is a course where your nerves really start to get tested. And this is also the course where I started checking the hallway camera. After beating this course, you get a Bonnie clock. Why is it Bonnie? I don't know. Because rabbits are fast? I don't know. Get off my ass, man. I'm trying my best here. The final built-in challenge is called Full Course, which has all characters at an AI value of 20. This is just as you'd expect it to be, but something important to note, A Bite at Freddy's has characters activate in an order. Even with their AI values cranked up as high as they are, on Full Course, each character still won't begin moving all at the same time. Don't get me wrong, this challenge is still incredibly difficult, it just isn't incredibly difficult right out of the gate. Beating this challenge gives you the Foxy and Chica finger puppets you were bitching about earlier. By the way, I still have yet to beat Full Course. I know that I can, I just haven't had time to pour the attempts in needed to do so. Now, what if I told you there was a challenge even harder than Full Course? Harder than all 520 mode? Would you believe me? Well, you should, because I'm not just bringing this up for no f***ing reason. If, while in the custom course menu, you manually set all the characters' AI values to 20 and then start the night, you will enter max mode. It's very similar to Full Course, but with one major difference. Every character activates right at the start of the night. You might think that's not a big change, but I promise you it's noticeable. You may not notice right away, but as the game goes on, your power will slowly start to creep out of control. It's insane what making the characters start at different times can do in terms of balancing. It's crazy how much more difficult it is when played this way. Even though the characters are just as aggressive, with them starting at the same time, you'd think that they were f***ing at 21. But if you somehow manage to beat this challenge, you'll be awarded with a Fredbear finger puppet, which confused me when I read about it, because as we know, a Fredbear doesn't actually exist in this game. So who is this? My only possible guess is that Fredbear is just Threadbare before he got his face all eaten up on, but I guess I'm not totally sure.
When you think of the typical Five Nights at Freddy's game formula, what usually comes to mind? Well, probably being stuck in one spot, unable to move, having characters bombard your doors, and only having a small amount of tools you can use to defend yourself. Occasionally, we'll find a fan game that introduces an interesting new mechanic. And of course, every now and then we find a free roam FNAF game that really, most of the time, feels like its own game that just uses FNAF characters. The game we'll be talking about today takes the FNAF formula and completely flips it on its head, giving you the opportunity to decide how long the nights are and even introducing useful upgrades along the way. The game we'll be talking about today is Teelerland, a game I've been asked to talk about quite a few times, and a game I actually intended on covering sooner, but due to a bunch of other interesting fan games I've wanted to talk about, I've just been pushing this video off. But today, here we are to talk about it. So strap in and join me as we dive into the depraved world of Teelerland. Teelerland begins by putting us in the shoes of David Artell. Years back, us and our brother opened an amusement park called Teelerland. After a few years of running, the park shut down and Teal and David went their own separate ways. Years after the shutdown, we get an unexpected call from Teal. All he tells us is to find him at the park. So, not knowing what's going on, we make our way back to Teelerland, and this is where the fun can truly begin. Entering the park, we walk around and explore a little, finding some lore pages and oh shit! The fuck was that? In typical horror media fashion, as the main character, I'm going to choose to completely ignore what I just saw and chalk it up to myself seeing things. Continuing to search around the park, we eventually find a pile of garbage bags that look very out of place. Moving them, we find a hidden trap door. So what better choice to make than opening it and climbing straight down blindly instead of, oh, I don't know, going back home to our family and sleeping like a normal person? Of course, climbing down a ladder in a FNAF game isn't as simple as it sounds. Instead, it's made into a minigame very reminiscent of the vent crawling section from Sister Location. Except this time around, there is actually a threat. Because yes, if you didn't know, you literally can't die in the vent section of Sister Location. That entire game is hot ass, and if you'd like to hear me talk about how bad it is in another video, let me know in the comments below. As we climb down the ladder, the first threat of this game is introduced. Teeler. As you climb down the ladder, Teeler can appear on either side. When he does, all you have to do is shine your flashlight at him and he'll go away. However, this game thought it would be really funny to make your flashlight have a startup time. So when you see Teeler, you'll kind of just have to awkwardly stare at him for 3 seconds while you wait for your flashlight to charge up and turn on, which just feels really goofy. So, now I have another question to ask you. How do you know a FNAF game is going to be really complicated before you even start? Well, in cases like Post Shift 2, it's walls of text explaining the mechanics that cause the game to feel so bloated it's not even fun. Well, what else? Let me tell you. There is quite literally nothing scarier than opening a FNAF game and seeing that there's a tutorial night. That's how you know the game you're about to play is going to have the most obtuse and random mechanics you've ever seen in your entire life, and Teelerland is no different. So, now's the time I get to explain to you the several tools at our disposal in a way that is hopefully not mind-numbingly boring. To begin, there are 3 rooms that you can occupy: your office, the hallway, and the supplies room. Each does exactly what you'd probably expect. The office is where you'll do your major important operations, the supplies room is where you do important side objectives throughout the night, and the hallway connects those 2 rooms. Simple. To start, we need to understand how it is you actually complete a night in Teelerland, because it's not as simple as most FNAF games tend to be. Teelerland uses a task-based completion system rather than a time-based one, except, once again, Teelerland chooses to do something different than most task-based completion systems. The goal of Teelerland is to lure all of the animatronics in the building into a bunch of holding cells, and the way we do that is by taking control of another animatronic that's in the supply room. So the first thing you need to do each night is walk to the supply room and put the animatronic together. Its body parts can be found in the hallway and in the supply room itself, and if you want to hear something awesome, these body parts can apparently teleport at will, because you will commonly walk through the hallway, see nothing, walk into the supply room, see an arm, then walk back into the hallway and find a leg just chilling on the floor. Where did it come from? You tell me. Anyways, once you attach all 3 pieces to the robot, it will leave to roam the building. At this point, you can go back to your office and begin to control it. So, who is the first threat during the first hour of this game? Well, that would be Teeler himself. Really, since you won't often come into direct contact with the characters in this game, and you don't deal with them in a typical FNAF way, the way I'm going to choose to talk about these mechanics is going to be different than most of my videos. In order to lure Teeler, you have to get within a 1 tile's range of him. On your computer, you will see several map tiles, and about once every second you can move the T-Lure robot you built from one tile to another. Throughout that night, Teeler will naturally move around the building, with the goal of making it to your office. By making T-Lure get close to Teeler, a lure meter will start to increase. However, it's not just as simple as standing right next to him. Teeler has the ability to infect the lure, meaning that if you make the lure stand in one spot right next to Teeler for too long, he will infect it. So all you really have to do is make sure you move back and forth while trying to lure him. If Teeler does infect your lure, you'll have to go back to the supply room and hack the firewall of the robot, I think. I don't really know what it is we're doing, I'll be honest. Basically, when the lure is infected, go to the supply room and open up your firewall. Inside, there will be a list of files with one of them infected. You can tell which one is infected because it will have the prefix Zanny_. All you have to do is click on it and boom, you'll be able to control the lure again. Anyways, back to luring. Once Teeler's lure meter is completely full, he will begin to chase your lure. This is when you need to get Teeler to one of the holding cells and lock him inside. Once you've done that, you can safely check off your to-do list and end the hour. But before we can talk about ending the hour, we have a few more important things to talk about. The first of which being your health. No one character alone will be able to end your run in one jump scare. Each character has a certain damage stat, and they will deal that number of damage to you upon jump scaring you. Typically, it's 2 jump scares and it's game over. However, you do have a med kit inside the supply room, so if you ever get injured, just go there and do like the protagonist from Resident Evil and fix your injury with a bandage. So that brings up the question, how do the animatronics actually damage you if you're constantly moving them around? Great question. As I've already said, Teeler's main goal is to get to your office, so you'll commonly find him moving to the bottom of the map, as that is where the hallway to your office is located. If he gets to your hallway, your lure won't be able to reach him, and you'll have to defend yourself to make him enter the main room once again. You do not want to encounter Teeler in your hallway. So, if you suspect he's there, before you walk into the hallway, you can look through the keyhole of the door to your office. If he's in your hallway, you will see his eyes staring back at you. If this is the case, then you will need to quickly stop looking through the keyhole and wait until you hear Teeler leave. If you walk into the hallway or stare at him through the keyhole for too long, then he'll grip your hips and make you bounce on a crazy style. One last thing to note about Teeler is that he is the slowest character to lure, making him by far the most annoying character we'll deal with throughout the game.
With enough effort, you can take control of anything. An ability far more powerful than any other.
Now, before we continue on to the next hour, we need to talk about possibly the coolest thing that this game does. Teelerland has upgrades that you can unlock and equip. Do these make sense from a story standpoint? No, not really. But is it cool nonetheless? Yes. Yes, it is. After each hour, you'll be able to access the perk menu. There are 6 perks for you to choose from. After completing an hour for the first time, you'll get a perk point, and you can get 2 additional perk points for completing the hard mode version of each hour, which, yes, by the way, each hour has a hard mode version for you to complete. There's no real use talking about them since nothing besides the difficulty really changes, but I will mention one additional thing they add. Every time you go to the computer, you'll have to type in a 4-digit code. It's annoying, that's about it. Anyways, back to the perks. You have 2 rank 1 perks and 4 rank 2 perks. Rank 1 perks cost 2 perk points each, and rank 2 perks cost 4 perk points each. So it'll be up to you to decide how you want to distribute your points. However, there is a clear answer as to which perks are the best. Let's start by looking at the rank 1 perks. The first adds a longer lure infection cooldown when you use the firewall, meaning that it will take longer for your lure to be able to be infected again. And the second rank 1 perk makes it easier to spot which text file in your firewall is infected. Considering it is incredibly easy already to tell which one is infected, it's safe to say that picking this perk is pretty useless. Moving on to the rank 2 perks. The first one really makes my ass quake because of how delectable it is, allowing the speed at which you unlock holding cell doors to increase. Opening the doors does take a considerable amount of time, so being able to do it faster is crucial. The second rank 2 perk just increases your max HP to 130. But generally speaking, if you're not a retard while you play the game, you shouldn't be getting damaged that often, so this perk is an easy skip. The third rank 2 perk increases the range at which your lure will attract the animatronics. This is quite literally so goddamn cock-sucking good I can't describe it to you. To not have to get super close to the characters in order to lure them will save you pretty much all chances you will have at getting your lure infected in the first place. And finally, the fourth rank 2 perk makes your lure move around the building faster, which is actually so yummy mashed potatoes in my belly, I couldn't help but buy this faster than your mom buys DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, and Postmates subscriptions. Now, moving on to Hour 2, which introduces 2 new threats. Let's talk about the one that's a clone of Teeler first, Frill. Frill does pretty much the exact same thing as Teeler. You have to lure him into a holding cell and he can infect your lure. The only way he's different is how he goes about attacking your hallway. When Frill enters your hallway, he will quickly make his way to the door of whichever room you're in and make a noticeable sound cue. When he does, you'll have to look through the keyhole. Once he makes eye contact with you, he'll turn into a little piss baby and move back into the main room. What about the other threat? The one that isn't just an easier version of Teeler? Well, let me introduce you to Willow the Magician. Willow does not give a fuck about your lure, to put it bluntly. She will pile drive right towards your door with no hesitation. However, she is also probably the easiest threat to deal with in this entire game. When Willow enters your hallway, all you have to do is stare her down. Apparently, she's a little autistic and doesn't like eye contact. So all you have to do is make her incredibly uncomfortable in public situations where there are plenty of people around, yet somehow she still manages to feel unsafe because you're staring right at her. However, if you see her in the hallway and exit the hall or take too long to go into the hall, all of a sudden she'll start acting the way she was acting in the DMs and tear your ass to bits.
His machines have far greater potential than what they were made for, sitting in this facility, rotting away. I will put them back together.
Hour 3 introduces another copy and paste character. However, I don't feel like she's that big of an issue. The character in question being Tacy. Tacy is quite literally identical to Frill. She must be lured into a holding cell, can infect your lure, and is even dealt with in the hallway in the exact same way. The only major difference is that she's a lot quieter. She'll still make sound cues, but the chances of you actually hearing them are pretty low. This night does really start to bring into question how hard this game has the possibility of being. Since we obviously can't lure all 3 characters at the same time, it is very likely that at this point of the game we will pretty consistently have someone in our hallway. And with 2 of these characters requiring us to stare at them through a keyhole to deal with, it makes it a hell of a lot more likely that Willow will plow us in the ass. However, I do need to give Teelerland credit where credit is due. Although this game may sound like it can be incredibly unfair, this is honestly one of the most enjoyable FNAF experiences I've ever had. Even at the few frustrating bits I had, which you can see over on my second channel, Dexter Black, I still found myself excited to play the next hour, and even found myself really wanting to complete the hard mode versions of the night, both to unlock the points and perks, and because it's genuinely just a super fun gameplay loop.
Don't mind if I do. Done.
I'm just too fucking good. I'm just too fucking good. Wahoo. It's the exact same excitement I got when playing Juniors for the first time, and Juniors ended up being one of the longest running series on the Dexter Black channel.
They were meant to be taken apart, modified, tampered with. He should have known. One day it would all be compromised.
Hour 4 introduces a brand new threat to the mix with a new mechanic we haven't seen yet, so strap in. The threat introduced on this night is Mischievous. He does not have to be lured, and like Willow, does not give a shit about it anyways. He will lurk around your halls and wait to attack. When he enters your hall, his music box will begin to play. When you hear his music box, you cannot leave the room you're currently in or he will force himself on you. And this guy is really ugly, and you don't want that. After his music box finishes playing, he will leave a little doll in the room opposite of the one you're already in. You will then have to quickly move into that other room, find the doll, and click on it before the doll decides to do a little dance on it. Friction shit. This of course brings up the obvious issue. We have a character that forces us to switch rooms very quickly, and with several characters attacking our hall that require us to wait and be patient for us to leave, this could very obviously pose a pretty big threat if we were to get some poor attack timings. Once again, really showing how difficult, annoying, and RNG based this game can be.
One more step until the plan is complete. The clock is ticking.
Night 5 introduces nothing new. However, there is a very crucial mechanic I forgot to mention so far. Something that will make your dick hurt, because it certainly made mine hurt. Earlier in this game, a new mechanic was introduced, your generator, which adds a power system to the program you use to control your lure robot. On the map, you will be able to see where the generator is, and you'll also be able to see how much percentage it is at. You obviously don't want that meter to drop down to 0, so how do you fill it? Well, that's pretty simple. At the beginning of each hour, along with the generator, some fuel will spawn somewhere randomly on the map, and when the generator gets low, you'll have to use the lure to go get it and refill the generator. This isn't a hard thing to do by any means, but when you're also trying to juggle everything else that's going on, which, trust me, there is a lot of, this will very quickly become something you dread doing.
It is complete. I've fixed them. I have made them perfect. They are all together now. They are now one. It will lure the beast out of his cage.
Well, oh boy, that doesn't sound good. But I mean, what's the worst that could happen? It's not like they're gonna take every character we've seen so far and merge them into one giant terrifying abomination and throw us into a new game mode that we haven't seen so far and have us learn from scratch, right?
Oh, word. Shit is snowing. What's going on here? Oh, shit. Something tells me it is most certainly not okay. What the hell did I just see? What the fuck is that?
Okay, so shit. That's exactly what's happening. Well, what do we have in store for us this time? For some reason, we're in a fucking dank cave. Not really sure why, but we are. And on top of that, there's a computer down in this cave. Again, not really sure why, but we roll with it, I guess. The goal of this finale hour is to destroy what this game calls Deterrent, which, yes, is every single character we've seen so far merged into one giant terrifying abomination. The way we go about destroying this thing is actually pretty cool and does literally feel like a boss fight, unlike most FNAF games that introduce boss fights. To start, let's talk about how Deterrent attacks, as it's pretty simple. There are two entrances to the room you're in behind you. Occasionally, you'll be able to hear him approach you from behind, and when he does, all you have to do is whip around and hold your flashlight on him. Which, yes, by the way, does have a battery life, so that's fun. Anyways, now to how we beat him. On the computer, we can see 4 rooms. Each room has a generator in it. When you hold the generator down, it will start to charge up. When it reaches 100%, it will explode. I'm sure you can see where we're going with this. You'll be able to see the deterrent moving around on the map. However, while you're charging a generator, for some reason, you go blind, which serves to make it more difficult to track deterrent, but also just literally makes no sense from a gameplay standpoint. But regardless, once you have a generator almost full, you will need to open the door to the generator's room. This will make the deterrent enter the room, but he won't stay in the room for very long, which is why you should already have the generator borderline completely charged by the time you invite him in. Obviously, once he's in, blow that bitch sky high and deal some damage. Then do this 3 more times, and congrats, you've won. Fucking moron, he did it 4 times! Ooh, what the hell? Where am I going? Oh. Yay! Hooray! Hooray! We fucking did it. Oh shit. What's gonna happen here? Oh damn. Oh. Oh, we climbing back out this bitch. Hell yeah, we are. Oh shit. Oh shit, we made it out of this bitch. Uh-oh. Don't tell me that Deterrent's still alive out there.
Oh, what the fuck was that? Like it's so loud all of a sudden. Oh, that whole fucking place. Oh shit, he tried to crawl out. He tried to crawl out up after me. Get the fuck away. Who you think you is?
Don't you despise me? Don't you want me gone?
I don't really care.
All the times I tried to fix your wrongdoings,
I'm kind of indifferent.
I have already lost.
Yeah, you did.
So go ahead, David.
What?
Free me from this place.
Oh shit, there was a dude in there. There was a dude in there, bro. Gulp. Brutally slaughtered. Wait, did you tell me I just killed a fucking dude down there? Like it wasn't even a robot? I just killed a dude? Is that what you're saying? Trying to understand here. Oh shit. That is disco, bro. Tealerland. No, that was badass. That was a badass game, bro. I can't even front with you. And just like that, we have completion. David puts an axe through the deterrent's head, and we have game over. Except one where we look like a badass. But the story of Tealerland is far more interesting than just that. It begins with two brothers, long before the lights of Tealerland ever flickered on. Teal Artel and David Artel built their company from nothing, a small business that slowly grew into something bigger, something sharper. And at the peak of that momentum, the brothers opened an amusement park attraction. Something simple, something fun, something that, at the time, didn't feel like it carried any real weight. That attraction was called Tealerland. For a while, it was nothing more than a strange little corner of the Artel brothers' world, a pet project tucked into the side of a much larger dream. Families came and went, the park buzzed with life, and nobody thought of it as anything more than a novelty. But places like this don't stay harmless forever. Not when the people running them drift apart. Not when one of them starts slipping into ideas that don't belong in an amusement park. Eventually, Teal and David's partnership cracked. The company fractured, and not long after, Tealerland shut down completely. No public explanation, no clean ending. The gates closed, the lights went out, and the attraction was left to rot under its own dust. When the world moved on, the Artel brothers went their separate ways. One of them tried to rebuild his life. The other vanished. Years passed before David Artel heard from his brother again. Out of nowhere, Teal reached out to him, a voice from a past he thought he'd buried, begging David to return to the old amusement park. The message didn't make sense. It didn't sound like the Teal he once knew, but there was fear in it, desperation, something that made David realize he couldn't ignore it. And so, against every instinct telling him to stay away, he went back. When David arrived, Tealerland was worse than abandoned. It felt staged, silent in a way that didn't feel natural. Half-crumbled structures, props left in strange positions, as if the place hadn't simply been forgotten, but deliberately prepared for someone. And as he wandered deeper into the park, trying to find his brother, he stumbled across something that confirmed it. A hidden entrance leading down into the earth, tracing beneath the park itself. David's company, the one he and Tealer built together, had been hiding an entire facility underneath the attraction. A whole underground complex, sealed off from the public long before Tealerland ever closed. A place where their past hadn't just been stored, it had been left alive. Once inside, David realized this wasn't just a forgotten workplace. The lights still worked, the systems still responded, and something else was awake down there with him. Something that didn't want him leaving. As he pushed further into the complex, the truth started to bleed through in fragments. Teal had been down here. Recently, he'd been working with the animatronics again, repairing them, rewiring them, bringing pieces of a dead attraction back to life. But whatever he had been doing, it wasn't for entertainment anymore. The machines began to move on their own, stalking the halls, watching David, responding like something had trained them toward him specifically. None of this was accidental.
None of this was the result of some wandering malfunction. Teal had built an entire scenario deep underground, a controlled maze, a sequence of escalating encounters, leading David step by step through the remnants of their old work. Every hour that passed in the facility dragged him closer to the heart of the place, and closer to Teal's intentions, and along the way, David discovered something he had always kept buried. The truth about what happened years ago, about the employee who died, about the body that David hid, and about what that one terrible decision did to Teal's mind. When Teal finally emerged, no longer the person David once knew, but someone warped by grief, guilt, and obsession, David realized the entire journey through Tealerland had been orchestrated. Teal didn't bring David here to save him, he brought him here to force a reckoning between them. Surrounded by the machines that represented everything that went wrong in their lives. The final confrontation wasn't between man and animatronic, it was between brother and brother. One consumed by the past, the other trying desperately to bury it. And in the end, the fight ended the only way it could. David killed Teal. Not out of malice, not out of hatred, but out of a moment where survival became the only option left. When it was over, the facility fell silent. The machines powered down, and as David surfaced from the underground, authorities arrived. They didn't see a man who'd been hunted. They didn't see the twisted maze his brother designed. All they saw was David Artell standing over the body of his own brother. He was arrested, charged, and locked away. And just like that, Tealerland, the amusement park, the secrets beneath it, the broken partnership that created all of it, was left behind again. This time buried under police tape and unanswered questions. A dead attraction built on dead ideas, reclaimed once more by silence. And with that, as far as I'm aware, is all that Tealerland has to offer. Overall, I think this game was a ton of fun to play. It's not often that a FNAF game has me wanting to try and 100% it, but just like Junior's, Tealerland had me wanting to give it a try. The character designs are amazing, the atmosphere and story are phenomenal, and of course, the gameplay loop is one of the most enjoyable I've ever played. I want you to think about the last time you've played a FNAF fan game that has introduced a mechanic you've never seen before. Maybe you think of Junior's deduction game mechanic. Maybe you think of Tealerland's upgrade system. Or maybe you dig really deep and think of One Night at Flumpty's 3 moving camera buttons. Whatever it may be, I'm sure you can agree that seeing a new mechanic is always interesting, and in my opinion is the most enjoyable part of playing FNAF games. I love exploring what people can come up with, even if the new mechanics are frustrating, I still love them. The game we'll be covering today introduces a mechanic like nothing I've ever seen before. A game so obscure I'd never heard of it, and I'm willing to bet you've never heard of it either. The game we'll be covering today is After Hours at Cody's, a so far one-off FNAF fan game that introduces one of the most interesting game mechanics I've ever seen, while also telling one of the most gruesome and depraved stories I've ever witnessed. You're not going to want to miss what we have in store today, so let's dive into the world of After Hours at Cody's. Before each night, we get a small cutscene to show us a little bit of what we're getting into. In the Night 1 cutscene, we see a mysterious black figure cause one of the animatronics to awaken. And I'm not gonna lie, the animatronic that wakes up is a bit of a bad bitch, I'm not gonna lie to you. But with that, we do start Night 1. Night 1 obviously introduces one threat. But before we can start talking about that threat, we need to talk about the mechanic in this game that makes it so unique. The cameras. Taking a look at them, you'll notice that there's a long bar in the center of the map with one small section of it being red and a small rectangle quickly moving back and forth across it. If you haven't figured out what these cameras are about to do yet, then let me tell you. When you switch cameras, you will need to time the camera switch up with when the small moving rectangle is inside of the red bar. If you mistime it, then the camera you clicked on will load very slowly. And this is a very fast-paced game. If you time it properly, the camera will load almost instantly. This is such an interesting mechanic that I originally thought I was going to hate. But it's because of this mechanic that I've actually put After Hours at Cody's in my top 5 favorite FNAF fan games of all time. But the timing doesn't only relate to how fast your cameras load. If that was all it did, then this mechanic would be pretty lackluster overall. It also plays a much more integral role with a core mechanic of the game: the power. Your power drains pretty quickly in this game. However, there is a way to recharge it, and unlike in most FNAF games where you can recharge power, it's surprisingly not done by holding down a fucking button like a music box. Thank dick. This time around, it's also tied to the timing mechanic in the cameras. Every time you properly time a camera switch, a small battery multiplier will increase by 1 at the bottom of the camera. The higher that multiplier is, the more power will increase, with a maximum multiplier of 30. However, if you don't properly time a switch fast enough, then the multiplier will start to quickly decrease. So constantly switching cameras is a must. I think this is easily one of the most unique mechanics I've ever seen. It adds a level of skill that most other FNAF games just don't have. Most FNAF games' skill ceilings are marked by your reflexes. This one is marked by your rhythm, and I think that's awesome. But anyways, onto the threat this night introduces: Bad Bitch Bella. Or as this game calls her, Bella the Beaver. I think my name is a little bit better though, personally. Bad Bitch Bella has a very simple motive: walk to your office, put a collar on you, and walk you like a dog. You guys can feel free to defend yourself from her, which I will explain how to do in a moment, but I for one will already be on my hands and knees by the time she enters the office. She will try to enter your office through camera 5 or your right door. In camera 5, she'll have 2 stages. One where she's far away from the camera, and another where she's much closer. Once she moves to her second phase, you will have to use your camera's alarm system, which, lucky us, is also tied to the timing mechanic. When you press the alarm button, if you don't time it with the red bar, the audio will not play and you'll have to wait for your alarm to charge back up. When you use the alarm on Bad Bitch Bella, she will look at the camera. When she does, all you have to do is close your door, and eventually she will go back to the stage. If you don't use the alarm on her, she will pound on your door and drain a lot of power before leaving, and then Operation Walk You Like a Dog will be set in motion. Very easy character to explain 2 very important mechanics in this game. I think After Hours at Cody's Night 1 is a great example of properly introducing your game's core mechanics in a way that isn't confusing or overwhelming. Plus, you made the character really hot for no reason at all. This is a children's establishment. Why are the characters hot? That's something I'll never be able to wrap my head around. Now, how do we actually complete the night? Surviving until 6 a.m., Dexter? You fucking retard? Whoa. Hey now. The people in my comments don't like it when you say that word. Do better, retard. Anyways, no. Surviving until 6 a.m. is not how you complete a night in this game. After Hours at Cody's opts to use a task-based completion system. Now everyone hold your breath, because this could either make or break this game depending on how shitty the tasks are. You can exhale. It's okay. The task is mundane. However, it plays into the game's core mechanic, so it actually makes for a very satisfying gameplay loop. Remember that black figure that brought the bad bitch back to life? Well, that character is known in this game as the Anomaly. And judging by that name alone, I'm willing to bet you can guess what this guy is going to do and what the task system in this game is. The Anomaly has a random chance to appear on any of the cameras in your game at any time. If at any point you find him, you will have to use your alarm on the camera that he's on. When you do, your Anomaly counter will go up. After you find him 10 times, the night will be over. You do have to note that he will not always be on a camera, and if you don't find him fast enough when he appears, he will not stay on a camera forever and will eventually leave. Again, overall this mechanic is pretty boring, but because of how well it ties into the timing mechanic, it serves as one of the most enjoyable FNAF experiences I've ever had. But now on to night 2, except I lied because we actually have a cutscene to talk about first.
My dear friends, the worst has come to pass. As many of you may already know, my brother, Darren, has not been found since his disappearance earlier this year. He meant the world to me, as I'm sure he did to plenty of you too. His astounding creativity and infallible craftsmanship became the source of so so many wonderful memories for children all across the country. These moments we shared will remain evergreen to me for as long as I live. Before I continue, though, I'd like to show you this. A child at Cody's gave this to me once when I was visiting the restaurant. Wonderful, isn't it? This creativity we inspire. As it pains me to say, I do understand the suspicion people may have had toward me in the months following my brother's disappearance. But please, I urge you all to understand how these events have weighed heavy on me. He was my family too. The threats I've received since then caused me to think about my place in all this. I know I may not have been the most communicative or involved between the two of us, but I still did hold so much love for the work we did together. All this is to say that I will be stepping down as proprietor of Cody & Co. I've had a long and fulfilling career, and I only hope that the kindness I've shown will continue to reflect on the company as I look forward to finding someone new to handle the reins. But until then, I hope only to leave this company in a better state than it currently remains. If my being a part of this only serves to obstruct the joy and wonder that my brother and I wish to impart, then perhaps it is best if I step down and let the magic live on without me. Thank you for everything. I genuinely had a wonderful time.
So, we have two brothers that started this company together, and one of them tragically died. Now, I'm no FNAF expert. Okay, maybe I am a little. I think we're all smart enough to know that the pain in this guy's voice is definitely a little bit sussy. I'm not pointing any fingers here, but if it comes out that his brother is the one who killed him, I would not be surprised in the slightest. Anyways, on to night 2. By the way, if you were curious as to how this game explains the anomaly, well, the phone guy blatantly tells us that we're ghost hunting. Everyone that works in this building knows about this thing and what it can do, and we were more so hired to remove it. If I signed up for a night watch job and got told that, I would walk out of that building before the poor bastard could even hang up. Night 2 introduces one new threat, Morris, who also introduces the last major mechanic this game has to talk about, the curtain behind you. I haven't actually mentioned it so far, but yes, you can turn around in your office to find a curtain. It vaguely reminds me of the curtain from those nights at Rachel's. However, this game isn't mind-numbingly boring like that one is. Morris will slowly creep out from behind the curtains throughout the night. Occasionally, you'll have to turn around and force him back. However, unlike most curtain mechanics like this, it isn't just pulling them closed or holding your light on it. After Hours at Cody's needs to get a little bit quirky. Introducing probably the most frustrating mechanic in the entire game. Next to the curtains, you'll see 4 buttons. Each button has a color. You might be thinking, Dexter, I'm looking at them and not a single one of them has a color. Well, you see, dear viewer, that's what I thought too. However, no, they do indeed have a color. You just can't see which color each button is until you press it, which I think is very stupid. Morris has 5 phases before jump scaring you. The first phase is the phase you'll mostly see him in. All you'll be able to see is his nose. This is the furthest back that he can be, so if he looks like this, you're all good. The next 4 phases each correspond to one of those buttons. So depending on how close he is to ganking you, you will have to select the correct colored button and then flash your light on him to make him go back to phase 1. What do the buttons mixed with the flashlight have to do with sending him back? I really have no idea. And in all honesty, I think this is easily the weakest part of the entire game. But that's not where my frustration with Morris ends. No, not at all. Believe it or not, turning around in your office can be a frustrating experience for literally no reason whatsoever. How, you might be asking? Well, I'd be more than happy to explain it to you. Let's say you're facing towards your doors. Bad bitch Bella is at your door, so for now, the door is closed. While this door is closed, apparently Beth, the name of our player, gets fucking glued to the goddamn ground and is unable to move an inch. Because if either one of your doors are closed, you will be unable to turn around to check on Morris. How does this make any sense at all? It literally fucking doesn't. And that's not all. It gets even more frustrating. Let's imagine you're facing Morris. You press a button and flash your light to send him back. Now it's time to turn around and start filling up our power in the camera again. But uh-oh, fucker! You forgot to press the button you already fucking pressed. Because if any of the buttons are currently toggled on, you can't turn around. Why? Who the fuck knows? I love this game a lot, but holy shit, this is one of the most retarded things I've ever seen. It doesn't make any sense at all. Well, whatever. It's frustrating. It's stupid, but I didn't let it ruin my experience with the rest of this amazing game. Speaking of, let's move on to the post-night 2 cutscene.
Greetings, employee, and welcome to part 3 of the Warren Tech Mascot Training Module. In this chapter, we'll be demonstrating how to safely wear and operate our patented Flex mascot suit. To begin the process, locate the 4 winding ports present on each of the character's limbs. Use your company-issued War Wrench to turn counterclockwise and disengage the mascot's enhanced performance mode. You should notice the eyes glow red from the activation of the light relay. This means that the mascot is ready to be worn. Simply be warned. Do not, by any circumstances, wear the mascot suit while it is still in its enhanced performance mode. Its specialized routines involve the full rotation and contortion of the extremities. Should you be caught in the suit during the performance of one of these routines, do not panic. If you can, tuck your legs and arms into the main torso and lower your head as far as possible.
Repeat the phrase. Aboard showtime routine. Donut protocol in effect. Aboard showtime routine. Donut protocol in effect.
So it seems we've found After Hours at Cody's spring lock equivalent. And in all honesty, I think it's way more brutal than the spring lock suit could ever be. Imagine being locked inside of that clown suit, only for the arms and legs to start twisting, breaking your bones, ripping your tendons, and contorting your bodies in ways it was never supposed to bend. This is easily one of the most terrifying ideas I've ever seen in a FNAF game before, and I'm all for it. Night 3 introduces one new threat, Jack the Jackal. He acts as this game's Chica, being a borderline exact copy of Bad Bitch Bella, except she's a 10 and he's like a 4 at best on a good day. As I'm sure you could have expected, Jack does the exact same thing as Bella, except he attacks camera 6 and your left door instead of your right. The same system and rules apply to him. He has 2 phases on camera 6. Once he's in his second phase, use the alarm on him and close the door until he leaves. Simple sugar. We've dealt with this before, however, it does add a decent deal of pressure in combination with what we already have. The cooldown for the alarm is relatively slow, and now having 3 consistent problems we need to use it on, it could easily start to get out of hand fast. Not to mention having another door character which could prevent us from turning around to check on Morris. This game can get stressful, but I honestly think that's one of the most enjoyable parts about it.
Clocking out? Okay. Have a good night then. Hey, Lonnie, mind if I talk to you about something?
Oh, of course. I was just about to finish up here. What's on your mind?
So, I've been going over the company's financial statements to help allocate the budget for next year. I noticed that some of our bank capital's been withdrawn and donated to a couple of undisclosed recipients. They've been blocked out. You wouldn't happen to know anything about this, would you? Okay. If you don't know anything about it, I'll just go ask Cynthia.
You won't get anything of value out of her. I made those withdrawals.
Alright, that's fine, but let me know next time. Given how much was spent, I don't have enough money left to fund my R&D for the new mascots next year. We need to focus on improving the restaurant before doing anything like this, okay? Anyways, who were the recipients anyway? You're joking, Lonnie. Tell me you're joking.
Quite the opposite, I'm afraid.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And after all that shit about dedicating yourself to the betterment of the company, to promise a business that would never do anything to harm its audience again, you pulled this on me?
Look, calm down. I can explain.
No, you can't explain shit. You may put up a face to get them to tolerate you, but I'll be damned if you ever gave a shit about the kids. I'm the one working my ass off out there to cover for your mistakes.
I said calm down! Don't even start with me. Your pitiful self-righteousness is pathetic. Do you not remember the hole I dug you out of? You owe every part of the success to me. I made this company, and I made you. Don't try to push superiority onto me when you're the one who crawled to me, begging for my help all those years ago. What I do with my company's funds is none of your business. Do what is asked of you before I decide you're no longer needed.
Fine, you made your point.
Glad we came to an agreement. Be seeing you.
Whatever.
So, the brother Lonnie, who we heard in the Night 1 cutscene, has been spending company money on something shady. The exact contents have been redacted, but judging from Daryl's reaction, it's not good news. We also have a pretty big argument about money here. And if we're still rolling with my theory that Lonnie had something to do with Daryl's death, money is one of the most common reasons for murder. Again, not necessarily pointing any fingers. Okay, that's a lie. Yes, I am. There's no way in fuck Lonnie isn't the reason Daryl died, but I guess only time will tell. Night 4 introduces the main attraction himself, Cody. Really shitty name, by the way. The only Cody I like is this gay guy who wears a lot of blue and has some yellow ass teeth. Anyways, onto what Cody from the game does. Cody's main goal in this game is to absolutely rail your power supply. There are 2 cameras which have breaker boxes in them. They must be female because Cody really wants to break their boxes with his big fat patty whacker double-decker robo dig. When he's in either of these cameras, he'll have 2 phases. One where he's just kind of chilling there, and the other where he's having intercourse with said breaker box. When you see him doing his thing with his big fat patty whacker double-decker robo dick, use the alarm on his camera to scare him away. If you don't, obviously your power is going to disintegrate like the cells on my testicles when I accidentally place them on the stove. So, here we have yet another character that requires us to use the alarm system. Can you start to see how this game could become stressful? Especially considering that our alarm has a pretty long cooldown time in reference to the amount of characters that require its use. Yeah, it can become a bit much at times, but in all honesty, I never felt like this game was unfair. I never felt like there was even an inkling of RNG. This game is so fun. You guys really need to check it out, or check out my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dexter Black.
I'm done. I'm done.
Just what is the meaning of this?
I can't keep covering your ass. I've just about had it. I've been trying to keep the magic alive for years at this point, but everything you've done has just thrown a wrench in every plan I've had. Every single time I was at the cusp of making something good for our audience, you've pulled the rug out from under my feet. Whatever, I know your heart was never really in it. Hell, we both know that neither of us would be here if it weren't for my mascots.
Do I need to remind you of the last time we've had this conversation?
No, because I've been thinking about what you said. Sure, you helped me out of a dark place, but I'm sure as goddamn hell you only ever did it to leech off my talent, knowing full well you couldn't produce a fraction of what we've accomplished here on your own.
Just get to the point. You're wasting my time.
I've had Cynthia pull our financial statements from the last 2 years. Don't even think about going after her when this is done, because she's made up her mind to leave long ago. I have the contacts of every news outlet in the state, ready to publish the uncensored documents at a moment's notice.
What? Are you dense? Don't you realize that this is gonna spell the end of you too?
I do. Besides, however this turns out sure as hell beats trying to steer a ship that's been sinking for years now. So I'm gonna give you 2 options. Walk away now and forsake your every stake in this company, or take the fall with me and lose everything anyway.
You belligerent, unthinking fool! You really haven't changed at all, have you? Still the over-emotional disaster of a child you've been since we were kids. God, it's no wonder Mom and Dad gave up on you so damn easily. You know what? Do your worst. You won't get anything out of me.
Then I guess you made your choice.
God damn it, Doria, get back here! This isn't something you just decide!
I've told you, my name is Daryl. Goodbye, Bonnie.
No, this can't be happening. Why are you making me do this?
Tisk, tisk, tisk. Well. Looky what we have here. Exactly as I suspected. Lonnie killed his brother. Sure, Daryl was gonna bring the entire company to its knees, but to be fair, it was entirely Lonnie's fault. I also want to use this cutscene to bring up a problem I have with some FNAF fan games. Voice acting can really make or break an impactful scene in a game. You really need to be able to get an actor or actress who can really bring that energy that the role needs to tell its story. Lonnie's voice acting is bad, and it really shows in this Night 4 cutscene. From the mumbling, making it hard to understand what he's saying if it wasn't for the subtitles, to the actor not really yelling during a scene where he needs to be yelling, it makes this scene, which is supposed to be impactful and shocking, just feel very awkward and uncomfortable. Not every game needs voice acting either. If you're a dev working on a FNAF game, or any game for that matter, and you just can't quite find an actor or actress that can fit your role with the vision you had in your head, I honestly think it's much better to just leave the voicing up to the player, rather than using an actor or actress that is going to make your scenes feel like they came out of Garden of Banban, a game series with notoriously horrendous voice acting. Anyways, moving on to Night 5. It introduces nothing new and just serves as a more difficult version of Night 4, so there's obviously not a whole lot to talk about here. However, what we can talk about is the post-Night 5 cutscene.
Hello? Oh, hello? Lonnie, what is this? Get me the hell out of here.
No. They can't know. God, why are you making me do this?
Wait, what? Lonnie, what the hell are you thinking of doing?
Please, don't make this harder than it has to be.
Lonnie, please, no. Listen, don't do this. I'm your brother!
You made me do this! They can't know. No one can know.
Please, Lonnie, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die.
Now, no one will know. I'm sorry, Daryl.
So, Daryl was killed via the Flex clown suit, this game's spring locks. It's not often you see someone other than the villain in a FNAF game fall to one of these traps. I was definitely shocked when I first saw this, and you can see my reaction to it over on my second channel, Dexter Black. Truly one of the most brutal death scenes I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game, except this time around, it didn't happen to someone we wanted it to happen to. Night 6 introduces this game's final 2 threats, and one of them is obviously the clown, Klaus, acting as this game's boss fight night. Klaus acts as every character we've seen so far, and that includes the anomaly. Klaus can attack both of your doors, can try to break your breaker boxes with his big fat patty whacker double-decker robo dick, and is the anomaly you have to find. Namely, if his eyes are glowing, that's how you know to play the alarm. Do this 10 times and the night is over. But what about Morris? It's stated in the phone call that Klaus destroyed all of the animatronics. What about a Morris mechanic? Well, Morris is replaced by this night's second new threat, Shadow Cody, who is a much faster version of Morris. If you thought you had to check on Morris a lot, you have to check on Shadow Cody a fuck ton more. This night is intense. Klaus is fast. He will be moving around your cameras, attacking you very quickly. And in addition to the incredibly aggressive Shadow Cody, it really serves to test the limits of your skills and your timings, easily being one of my favorite nights in this entire game, and being one of, if not my favorite boss fight night in any FNAF game I've ever played.
We're going to do wonderful things.
Before Beth can leave the building, she's caught by Klaus, and is never seen by another human being ever again. A local who goes by the name Bethany Hasters has been reported missing as of Sunday 5 a.m. Last seen at Cody & Co.'s Game & Grub, authorities have been searching the vicinity and its surrounding forest areas to deduct what could have occurred. There is no current suspicion of foul play, but a manhunt will be conducted within the week. Authorities state to have found her place of work in disarray, sparking suspicions of the suspect being inebriated or the like. In addition to this, the robot entertainers of the restaurant were found completely disassembled and damaged beyond repair. The company has yet to release a statement, but the resigning CEO has spoken with authorities and announces that the robots will be sent for repair at one of the company's sister facilities. This story is depraved, and trust me, there's a lot that goes into it. Long before the game takes place, Cody & Co.'s Game & Grub was meant to be a second chance, a reopening of a restaurant that had already failed once before, revived under the guidance of Warren Technology. On the surface, it was nothing special. A modest, arcade-style diner built around animatronic mascots, struggling to stay relevant in a world that had already moved on. But beneath that fragile revival was something unstable, something unfinished, quietly embedded into the building's systems. That presence became known as the anomaly. Employees noticed it first. Small things at the beginning, strange glitches in the animatronics' behaviors, systems responding without being touched, errors appearing where none should exist. Management acknowledged it, but only as a technical problem, something to be observed, something to be measured, not something to be feared. By the time Bethany Hasters was hired as the night guard, the anomaly was already spreading. Bethany's job was simple on paper: work the overnight shift, monitor the building, and collect data on the anomaly's activity. Her first night begins on November 9th, 1997, and at first, the restaurant almost feels dormant, quiet, empty. But that stillness doesn't last long, because each night, the anomaly grows more aggressive, and it chooses its host one by one. The first animatronic to fall under its influence is Bella the Beaver. Once a friendly mascot, Bella becomes erratic, hostile, and unpredictable, her movements no longer matching her original programming. The following night, Morris the Mouse is corrupted as well, then Jack the Jackal. Each evening, another animatronic loses control, as if something is slowly rewriting them from the inside. All the while, the anomaly watches Bethany. By Thursday night, even Cody, the face of the restaurant itself, is no longer safe. His corruption marks a turning point. The anomaly has nearly overtaken the entire system. Whatever restraint once existed is gone, and by Friday, the restaurant's original code is on the brink of a total collapse. Behind all of this is Warren Technology, and more specifically, the company's founders, Daryl and Lonnie Warren. Years earlier, Daryl had been responsible for developing advanced animatronic technology, including a dangerous experimental suit known as the Flex suit. At some point, Daryl was betrayed and trapped inside that suit. Whether intentional or negligent, the result was the same. Daryl never escaped, and what remained of him became something else entirely. The anomaly. On Friday night, Lonnie Warren lies about a meeting, betrays another employee, and secretly releases what remains of Daryl from backstage confinement. By Saturday, the animatronics have been dismantled, but the threat hasn't ended. The anomaly has a body now, a form known as Klaus, and it is no longer bound to systems or code. It hunts Bethany directly. Saturday night becomes less about surviving malfunctioning machines and more about avoiding a conscious entity moving freely through the building. And if that wasn't enough, another presence emerges, Shadow Cody, a dark manifestation tied to the restaurant's collapse, appearing as an additional threat. In the end, Bethany doesn't escape. She's caught by Klaus and taken away, her fate left deliberately unclear. In the final cutscene, Daryl, still trapped within Klaus, offers her a gift, hinting that her story isn't over, and that whatever comes next will involve choice, consequence, and continuation. And that's where After Hours at Cody's leaves us. A restaurant reopened too late, a company that tried to bury its mistakes, and a presence that was never just a glitch, but the remains of someone who was never allowed to leave. But that's not where After Hours at Cody's comes to a close. Not quite yet. We still have something very interesting to talk about. If you go to the custom night menu after completing the final night, you will see a small chest icon in the bottom corner. Clicking on it will bring you to a FNAF 4 styled lock box with 2 padlocks. And rest assured, we can get the keys. The first key is locked behind 520 mode. If there's anything you guys know about me, it's that I'm absolutely terrible at Five Nights at Freddy's games. But you want to hear something crazy? I was actually able to beat this max mode, and I even did it on my first try. I would usually never even give a max mode a try, and at the time of playing it, I didn't know that beating it would give me a key. Does that let me unlock one of the boxes? Oh my god, it did! So the fact that I played it and beat it goes to show just how much I enjoyed this game, and I really think you guys will too. But what about the second key? Well, you get it by completing this game's second max mode, 220 mode with Klaus and Shadow Cody, which yes, I also beat, and yes, I also beat on my first try. I don't think this game is necessarily very difficult by any means, but I am still very proud of myself for actually doing it. And watching me play it over on my second channel, Dexter Black, makes me look like I'm a lot better at these types of games than I really am. After completing both max modes, we can take the keys and unlock the box to find a very menacing looking character whose eyes turn on, a teaser for what will undoubtedly be a second game, and I believe that this character we see here is Bethany. But only time will tell. One last thing I want to talk about is something you can find in the extras menu. If you scroll through the characters until you find Klaus and hover over his face, you will see what I believe to be the rotting, decompiling corpse of Daryl. Truly one of the most disturbing images I've ever seen in a FNAF game. And with that, that's all After Hours at Cody's has to offer. Overall, I think this game is easily one of the most unique, interesting, and fun FNAF games I've ever played, right up there with how much fun I had playing Juniors. After Hours at Cody's really is a super fun experience with a gruesome, easy to follow story, and I highly recommend you give it a try. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think I'm just glazing this game because I was able to beat it? Let me know in the comments below. In my Remnants of Tubbyland video, I asked you guys what your favorite horror game from 2025 was, and my favorite answer was this one by Skeletons. They said, "No, I'm Not Human," and I totally agree. I absolutely loved that game, and you can see my full playthrough of it over on my third channel, Dexter Gray, which a lot of people don't even know exists. The question of this video is, what upcoming FNAF game are you looking forward to this year in 2026? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it a lot. Thank you to all of my superfan channel members, you guys guzzle chug jugs of Riz sauce. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!